Good morning, distinguished guests, respected academics, industry leaders, legal professionals, cybersecurity experts, fellow professionals, and ISTL participants. It is our privilege to welcome you to the Cybersecurity and Law Conference 2026, a platform bringing together two fields that have become increasingly inseparable in our rapidly evolving digital landscape.
As technology continues to transform the way we communicate, conduct business, store information, and interact with one another, the challenges surrounding cybercrime, digital evidence, privacy, digital rights, artificial intelligence, and online safety have never been more significant. Today, we have an exceptional gathering of professionals and thought leaders who will explore these challenges from both technical and legal perspectives.
To formally commence this conference, we will now begin with the ceremonial lighting of the oil lamp. May we respectfully invite the following dignitaries to join us for the ceremonial lighting of the oil lamp. Mr. Sehan Soisa, the Chief Guest.
Professor Nimal Rajapaksa, Senior Deputy Vice Chancellor and Provost.
Professor Nuwan Kodagoda, Pro Vice Chancellor, Faculty of Computing.
Professor Dasuni Navina, Associate Dean, Research, Faculty of Computing.
Professor Anurag Jakodi, Head of Department of Computer Systems Engineering.
Professor Kushanti Haraskama, Head, School of Law, Faculty of Humanities and Sciences.
Professor Harinder Fernando.
Mr. Laksiri Geetal.
Mr. Senalika Devalavatta.
Mr. Samni Vikramasinghe.
And Guvani Mesha.
Ihansi Pereira.
Dilshan Piris.
Sakitu Niman.
And Pasindu Tilakaratna.
Namo, namo, namo.
Thank you, and please be seated.
What you doing? Where you at? You got plans? Don't say that. I'm sipping wine in a row. I look too good to be alone. My house clean, pool on. Just say like a newborn. We should be dancing, romancing in the east wing, in the west wing, in this mansion is happening. I'm leaving the door open. I'm leaving the door open, girl. I'm leaving the door open. That you feel the way I feel, you want me like I want you tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, to officially commence this conference, I would now invite Professor Kushanti Harasgama, Head, School of Law, Faculty of Humanities and Sciences, to deliver the welcome address.
Good morning. Chief guest and keynote speaker, Mr. Sehan Soisa, distinguished panelists of the two conference sessions, Senior Deputy Vice Chancellor and Provost of SLIIT, Professor Nimal Rajapaksa, Pro Vice Chancellor, Faculty of Computing, Professor Nuwan Kodagoda, Deans, Associate Deans, Heads, colleagues, and esteemed participants. I'm privileged and honored to welcome you all to the Cybersecurity and Law Conference 2026, organized by the students of the Cybersecurity Community of SLIIT, Law Students Society of the SLIIT School of Law, and the SLIIT ISACA student group. We live in an age where artificial intelligence and digital technologies have permeated every facet of our daily lives, where cybercrime and cyber threats are escalating at an unprecedented rate, and where protection of personal privacy and confidential information has become increasingly difficult. In this context, what we will be discussing at today's conference is not only timely, but is also of great significance and relevance. At today's conference, held under the theme, Navigating the Future of Cybersecurity, Digital Rights and Law, we will discuss and explore the intersection of cybersecurity, digital rights, and the law. Our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Sehan Soisa, will first enlighten the audience about how digital transformation impacts our peace and security, and how ready Sri Lanka face the emerging threats. Then you will have the opportunity of engaging with our expert panelists from Sri Lanka's cybersecurity sector, legal law enforcement, and the academia across two panel discussions. The first panel will address cybercrime investigations, digital evidence, and the rise of AI, while the second will focus on privacy and digital rights and online harassment. We hope that the insightful discussions and interactive activities planned for today will challenge, educate, and inspire you. So thank you for being here. I wish you all a productive and an enlightening conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kushanti, for those warm and insightful words of welcome. And next up, I now invite Professor Nimal Rajapaksa, Senior Deputy Vice Chancellor and Provost, to deliver his address.
Good morning. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome Mr. Shehan Soisa, who is from Attorney General's Department, as the chief guest of this conference. Professor Duan Kodaguda, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Faculty of Computing. Professor Kushanthi Haraskama, Head School of Law, and Professor Anuradha Jagodi, Head Department of Computer Systems Engineering. Distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen, and all the students who are here to attend this exciting event. It is actually something that SLIIT is always proud when we actually invite units within our institute to work together. So if you look at this conference, it is jointly organized by the School of Law and the Faculty of Computing, particularly the Department of Computer Systems Engineering, because I think the future is in terms of those kind of interdisciplinary research and education. And particularly, we are living in a world where the technology is becoming increasingly sophisticated, and we have to not just look at the technology, but also look at the societal implications of that technology. And I think if you look at the field of information technology, as well as the lot of interest right now in terms of artificial intelligence, you will see that there is a very strong interconnect between actually these disciplines as well as the other areas, such as law and so on. Particularly when it comes to cybersecurity and digital rights, we cannot look at these two areas in isolation as separate pillars. We have to look at actually how they interact, because we need, in one hand, we need technology to advance the society and to make progress. But at the same time, we need actually law to protect the society, to make sure that people are protected, organizations are protected, and individuals are protected. So I hope that this conference will actually contribute to advancing that kind of interdisciplinary cooperation, and also give a good example to the students who are here today that how different disciplines can work together. I think that is one of the most important things. I think we have to understand that the problems of today are no longer solved by an individual. The problems of today actually have to be solved by a team of experts with different knowledge and so on, who will come together, discuss the problem, find appropriate solution, and disseminate into the society. So we are very proud to host this event, and I know that events like this don't happen without any effort. So the two departments, the faculties, they have worked very closely, and as an institution, we are also very pleased actually to support this. And I am sure that everyone here will benefit a lot from this event, and I wish you a very successful conference and a very productive discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Nima. And we are now moving on to one of the key moments of today's conference. Our keynote address will set the stage for discussions that follow, offering valuable perspectives on the intersection of cybersecurity, technology, and law.
Mr. Sehan Anthony Soisa is a senior state counsel at the Attorney General Department of Sri Lanka, bringing extensive experience in public law, commercial cases, and legal disputes. With a career dedicated to legal excellence, he has also served as a legal expert and consultant for government ministries and major financial institutions, including the Ministry of Defence of Oman and Board of Investments of Sri Lanka. It is now our privilege to invite our distinguished keynote speaker to deliver the keynote address.
So good morning. Professor Rajapaksha, I think encapsulated what I want to say, which is about teams. I'm coming again to SLIIT after about 20 years. When I was in law college in 2006, I told Professor Krishanti as well. Here, what happened was, we had 2 matches against SLIIT. I was the rugby captain of law college, while SLIIT at that time only had 1 faculty, if I'm not mistaken. So, the initial first match, we won 25-5. Then, before the law medical, we thought we need a practice match, and we thought SLIIT didn't give us that harder match. Let's bring them. And we were wrong. They gave us the hardest match in a way, the best way to prepare for a very important match. Finally, we won by 1 point. But I remember that SLIIT, all the students here, should never be underestimated, because you guys have the power to come back for even the worst or a very bad crash to give a very good outing. So with that, let's start. Is there any mics here? I need a volunteer from the faculty of Cybersecurity. Can somebody who's willing to talk up just tell us why they selected Cybersecurity? One volunteer, please. Do we have anybody? No? What about on the law side? We love to talk, right? Is there anybody here who wants to say why they came for this conference? Or why they chose cybersecurity? Is there anybody? Come on, SLIIT. I thought you guys were brave. You're going to the frontier. You're going to be something new, something very important for our country. Okay. Now, you see our brave armed forces. During difficult times, they were there for us and they protected us. But, can people with guns, machines, or even airplanes, navy crafts, can they protect and secure our future? This is the problem. Our greatest threat, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Now our greatest threat is not from people who come and shoot us. Getting shot and dying in a way is good, but just imagine your reputation being destroyed. Isn't that a worse thing? Now I don't need to know where to point this. Security aside, I can't get through the next. Okay, let's see. Now, this is what is happening in the world. So far, Sri Lanka has been isolated to a certain extent. But people are noticing Sri Lanka now. Cyber criminals, for whatever reason, now find Sri Lanka also very interesting. So these are the threats that are happening in our society now. If you see, those days we didn't have these sort of issues. Now, your personal data can be used against you. This is one of the biggest threats that we have. Data is more important than anything else. I can prove it also. Who here has the courage to give me their phone unlocked? If I ask somebody now, they might give their purse, their credit cards, even their money, but they won't give me their purse. What do you think, person? Am I correct? Some of the data that is contained in your phones are more important than what's in your purse. With that, just like that, even the state, most important things in a state is going to be something called digital public infrastructure. Okay? We'll come to that, but remember, now they are not just hackers only who come and attack us, but there might be a country, hopefully Sri Lanka will not have enemies like that, but there are certain countries like North Korea who get their revenue or their investments from hacking. Again, now the last part here, the blue one, should worry all of you. This is called cognitive information operations. What happens is, when we are human, the human part of us is the most easy way to target. Those days they used to call it social engineering, but now there's something called romance bait, where especially male individuals who are young are baited by pretty ladies that they think are pretty ladies but are not pretty ladies. They might be AI. So just like that, we are becoming the target. So, unfortunately, my colleague from the police, unless he has cybersecurity knowledge, which he does, will not be able to stop them. Normal police officers are not in a position to stop them because they can't be found, and most of all, they are not even in Sri Lanka. The threat that we face isn't here in Sri Lanka, but mainly outside. So, the question is, can the defenders who we thought were our front line save us in the future? The answer is what Professor Rajpaksha mentioned. We need new defenders. Our digital nation requires legal scholars, prosecutors, forensic specialists, and cybersecurity engineers. As Professor Rajpaksha mentioned, we need teams. Why? I'll show you. Has anybody seen this? If they have seen this, please raise your hand. They have. Oh, I'm so glad. I thought nobody was hearing me. So then, do you know what this is? Any answers? Sleep are very silent, no? They must be, they are deep thinkers, they don't want to say things. Okay. Do you know what this is? What is this? Our future. Okay. This is what the government of Sri Lanka is promising be our future. Now, there is that red part. My junior, he is also there. We are working on that red part. That red part says unique digital identity. Like you are sitting here, in the future, you will have a unique digital identity which you need for all the services that are coming. Okay? Now, digital public infrastructure. Who has heard that? Wow. I'll have to have one-to-one conversation to find out what these guys know about. Okay. Any idea? Digital public infrastructure is where your data is being also used in digital infrastructure. Now the digital infrastructure is the layers which you find underneath the digital, the red part, which is e-government clouds. Now you know about clouds, right? In the clouds, data is stored. So on basis of the data that you would have, you have access to various things. the motor traffic department, education, everything will be online. All your payments, everything will happen there. The advantage of a digital transformation is that it brings in investment because it prevents corruption. And the other aspect of it is, while it might invade your privacy, you get more opportunities to do things online. You don't have to stand in queues. You don't have to waste time. If you have a digital identity, you can use that to do all your services, especially with the government. But with digitization, is there a problem? Now, at the moment, already, if I am not mistaken, we have so many cybersecurity issues. I'm sure in the next panel, which should be conducted by Professor Harinder, they will explain the problems that are there. But all these problems are going to increase. Why? Because the hackers or the attackers, cyber criminals, will have more opportunities to attack. When your data gets more online and into the data exchanges, the opportunities to attack you and also to destroy your economy gets higher. So what will happen is that with our digital public infrastructure, it becomes sort of like our nervous system. Okay? Because all our services, including finance, healthcare, and transportation, things like that, even energy. Has anybody heard Stuxnet? Professor Harinder, I'm sure they will talk about it. Where Mossad officers infiltrated and in Iran's nuclear arsenal or nuclear machines, the centrifuges were destroyed. So, with digital transformation, we are going to face all of these issues. So I'm so proud of the SLIIT students here because you have understood. Now I was going to ask why you came here, but I think I know the answer. You know what the future holds. You know the problems. So you want to find solutions. So I clap or I give my recommendation to all of you for coming here because your future is already here. And there are risks as well as what I'll come to, opportunities for you. For us to overcome cybercrimes, the team concept that was mentioned, we need a united national defense. Okay? So the theme is, there isn't one person, one authority, not even the government, not even the police, who can stop this. Sri Lankan society itself must come together, understand the problem, and try to do what we can. Now, if you are a cybersecurity professional or a lawyer, these policies you must know. Professor Kanishka, do you think the information cybersecurity policy is important? It's quite important. You know why? Because that mandates all government institutions to take certain precautions. I have circulated the policy, but since most of you don't want to talk, but I'm sure would know it inside out, I will just give a few examples. There was an instance where one government institution was audited after a small incident. Audited by the sir, they didn't do anything after that. Now these are first incidents are probing incidents. They just come and see what might happen if something is done. So that government institution didn't do anything. Next time, they did certain attacks which I can't reveal, but it caused millions of losses. So, who had to bear that? Now, we can't even find the cyber criminal who did it. That institution will have to bear it because they violated the information policy. In the information policy, it's not that long. It is in all 3 languages. There are 2 unique institutions that are named there, or government institutions, and within that government institution, critical national infrastructure. I will come to what that is. Remember, even if you don't read anything else, if you want to become a cybersecurity expert in Sri Lanka, the cybersecurity policy is important. Then we'll come to the national cybersecurity strategy. But with regard to financial institutions, there is a mandatory code called the CBSL Baseline Security Standard. So if any bank fails to follow this, they are liable both to the customer and to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. So these are mandatory codes. Apart from that, now let's go to the strategy. Who has read the strategy? There's one. Anybody else? It is important for all of you. I'll tell you why. It envisages a new authority called the Cybersecurity Regulatory Authority, and with that there is something important that will come. Now, when the cabinet approved this, they mentioned something. This was by the president in 2025. The successful implementation of the cybersecurity measures depend upon expertise of professionals equipped with specialized knowledge, skills, and experience in cyber defense. Such unique expertise is essential for devising proactive strategies, deploying robust proactive measures, safeguarding digital assets against evolving cyber risks. Therefore, to ensure effective implementation of the National Cybersecurity Strategy, it is essential to recruit highly qualified, experienced professionals who possess the necessary skills and expertise. And it's essential to remunerate such professionals according to prevailing market rates of cybersecurity industry. Okay? So what does that say? That says, in the very certain or very near future, the government will come looking for all of you. Provided you have the knowledge, you have that interest, and you have the expertise to become what? Become the digital defenders of Sri Lanka. Now, to help you in this process, from my experience, I have understood when it comes to cyber crimes, these are the laws that all legal professionals must know inside out, and cyber security professionals also know. Now, legal professionals have to know a lot of laws, but for cyber security purposes, you must know about these acts. Okay? If you want to apply to any internship or any government position, remember that these acts are there. First one is Computer Crimes Act. Now, this was here 2007 Act. However, there is a new convention called the United Nations Convention on Cybercrime, which I am working on. And it doesn't use the word computer. It uses information communication technology crimes. Computer is already now gone by, that's the limited meaning. But at least this act provides us certain relief. We'll come to the sections. Then, with regard to evidence, all lawyers must understand there are two main acts which apply: the Evidence Ordinance, which was amended for computer with the Special Provisions Act, but nobody likes it. Am I right? It's so cumbersome that people somehow got a way to overcome it. And the way we overcame it is through the Electronic Transaction Act, where if regular conducted or business activities are conducted, there is a presumption, and all these documents can be lent in any cases. Next thing is for your credit cards, debit cards. Who use a credit cards, debit cards? Thank God, some people are raising their arms. Okay, great. So, if something happens for that incident, it's the Payment Devices Frauds Act that will apply. And also, now I said earlier, the criminals are in different places. They might be in North Korea. Provided the government can bring them in, there is an act called Mutual Assistance in Criminal Matters, where we can prosecute them either from here or there. We can get mutual assistance to prosecute these offences. Then, on the other side, I think there is another panel on this, but the Personal Data Protection Act, which is now coming into force. Then the Online Safety Act, which my colleague will say we have to go through again, which might be amended. Then the Right to Information Act and the Cybersecurity Bill. When it comes, read it up because it will apply to all of you. Now I'm going to go through all these sections because the panel, I think Professor Harinder will go through all of these. But remember, we have these sections which can give us relief. But I just want to mention that in instances where there might be offences that you can't prosecute under the Computer Crimes Act, you might fall back on the penal code. I'll give an example. A public official said that he's been threatened online. So, even if we can't go under the Computer Crimes Act, the penal code offences are still there. It doesn't say that just because you threaten somebody online that you can't be prosecuted, because there were people around him as well. So sometimes we can even fall back under this. And with regard to cybersecurity experts, your biggest role comes in when the investigation and the seizures happen. Because in digital evidence, as soon as you interact with a computer or laptop, the evidence changes. It might become worthless. Because of that, remember these provisions. I mentioned about the Electronic Transaction Act. For cybersecurity professionals, just doing an investigation, finding who did it is not enough. There is another step, which is you might have to come to court and give evidence what you did. So, I'm sure now all the people are silent here. When they come to court, they will show, okay, I'm a SLIIT graduate, I know how to give evidence, and they will say, if somebody comes and says, you can't lead evidence, you can cite the information, the Electronic Transaction Act, and say, there are provisions for you to lead evidence under that. Okay, this is about the baseline security of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Remember that that's a mandatory code. I don't know if the first enough has seen this. It's pretty good because it is based on ISO 27005 and it requires certain ways of preserving evidence. And if you see the green side, log synchronization, audit logging, log protection, all of these, which are not even provided in the policy, are set out there because finances or banking is so crucial to Sri Lanka. Okay, AI. Now I was mentioning a policy and legal acts. Will that be enough during or when AI is coming? What do you think? what is the problem that AI will bring? I'm sure now a SLIIT student will stand up and say something, right? No? Okay. The problem with AI is there somebody? Come on. You guys should know more than us. Now, what do you think? The younger students are leaving. As I was saying, I'm a hybrid. I was analog and digital. Now, I brought my colleague who is 3.0. He's basically digital. Okay? So, in that context, you guys should know what the problems which will come up. Because if you are working on cybersecurity, you must be proactive. You can't be limited to books. You have to know what's happening in various cybersecurity forums and know the problems which are coming up. One of the biggest problems that I see on Facebook is I see so many profiles, beautiful people. I don't know how people rate beauty or whatever, but still there are so many profiles which are they authentic? No. Definitely. Most of the profiles which are so beautiful that you think it can't be true. It is true. It's not true. They are fake. But the problem is not cybersecurity students, right? Lot of these people I have seen commenting on certain pictures which I know are AI generated. Wow, you're so beautiful. Can I have your number? And just imagine. Okay. Now, none of you are going to do that. I'm pretty sure none of you would have ever corresponded with an AI generated profile, say a boy who thought he's a pretty girl, to see it's another boy, okay, who's there. But I don't think that had happened to you. But just imagine, I know that these are AI and I see, wow, you're so beautiful and all. That shows we are getting caught. I don't know how they get caught. Sometimes maybe they don't give money, or maybe they give money, but they are so embarrassed to come and complain. Am I right? Okay. So with AI, you can create material that is so, how would you say, when you look at it at first glance, you are amazed. And it's getting better. The AI today is the worst version of AI that will be there in the future. Remember that. AI is important. But with AI, we have to also evolve. I will since this is cybersecurity conference, major AI-driven incidents 2024 in the Asia Pacific Interpol. Okay, February 2024. An employee at multinational firm in Hong Kong, China was tricked into transferring $25 million after deepfake technology was used to impersonate an executive in a video call. Then again South Korea. Then in October 2024, organized crime in Myanmar, Cambodia and Laos used deepfakes in romance bait. That's what I mentioned. So sometimes the person you fall in love might be in Myanmar, Cambodia and Laos. And where they blended AI personas and social engineering to fuel $37 billion in regional cybercrime losses. 37 billion. That's like I think death. 37 billion. Criminals, okay? Romance baiting. This is such a, I think, a lucrative area. And then in March 2010, a finance director of a multinational corporation in Singapore nearly lost $500 million after participating in a Zoom call with a deepfake impersonation of senior executives, including CEO and the CFO. So, next time when you come for a Zoom meeting, be a bit cautious. Even that person might be deepfake. So what does this? So we have to understand what is happening in society because things are getting very difficult. Our future is not certain, but we can overcome the challenges that I mentioned earlier. Now, with AI, another problem that I see for all of us, which we have to now what I'm doing is trying to make you think about the issues so that I might not have all the answers, neither anybody here. But collectively, we can think about the issues and come up with solutions. Now, one of the problems that I see is that with AI prosecuting, especially cybercrimes, it will be difficult. For one thing, we don't know who the offender is. Even if you find the offender, it will be very difficult to explain AI. Now, when you use AI, is AI like a human being finding material that it believes is correct, or does it work on another way? Is AI looking for the truth, or is AI doing something different? Who says AI is looking for truth? Who says AI is doing a different thing? AI works on statistical probabilities. Okay? So, depending on the data that is given to it, it comes up with the best possible answer. So, what's the problem with that? The data and the statistical probability. Now, we have to go and explain this to who? Judges. I'm not saying judges are not smart, but I think the police can inform you. A judge have about 30 cases from heroin, ganja, everything. And then you go to a judge and you have to say, AI is wrong, AI works on statistical probabilities. Just imagine that. Okay? I'm just saying, these are the problems which will come up. But with time, we can overcome this. But remember, explain AI. Okay? Understand AI. You don't need to understand a car to drive it. But you must know when the car needs certain repairs and what are the risks with the car. Just like that, with AI, you don't have to understand AI, but find out how AI can be used for you, and secondly, what are the risks AI poses. So I won't go into this because there is a panel there. Also not this, because I don't want to take too much time. There's so many interesting speakers left. But now this. So on one side, for the legal practitioners, okay? For legal practitioners, we need to know technical stuff. We need an understanding of how things work and how things can go wrong. Secondly, now I said opportunities. How many lawyers do you think are digital experts in Sri Lanka? I would say none. Because cybersecurity and AI are things like, have you seen elephants? If a blind person goes and touches an elephant, according to the place he touches, he might think the elephant has different things. Okay? Just like that, despite anything anybody says, nobody knows everything about cybersecurity. Nobody knows everything about AI. Nobody knows everything about digital law. So, for lawyers who are there, remember, there are seniors who know divorce law, land law. They might have practiced for 20, 30 years. But when it comes to areas, statistical probabilities and all that, you have an advantage. You can become an expert in that area. You don't have to go and work for some institution, provided you have that keen interest. But I must say, you have to speak, okay? Because there's a large crowd, none of you spoke, but we are certain, no? this guy voting and all that. No? So when you come to court, you will look at the judge and explain. But remember, you must develop your expertise in both algorithms, cybersecurity, as well as your communication skills for cybersecurity professionals. Now I mentioned the cabinet paper. So it appears even in Sri Lanka, your remuneration will be highest at the highest level the government can afford. Why? Because you are going to protect vital things, our economy, our privacy, our reputation, and most of all, our culture. Everything that is connected to Sri Lankan digital identity will be protected by all of you. I didn't want to scare you, but I'm sure, that's why I said, the armed forces and the police, they have done what they can. Now, it's your turn. It's your turn to take leadership in this. Because, as I said, there are people who put messages to fake profiles saying, you're beautiful, I want to chat with you, call me on this number. When we have people like that, we need people, students like you, to come to the front. Today is not about coming and teaching things. Today is about you understanding the problems and the opportunities. When all the panels come here to speak to you, take that opportunity, interact. Why I'm saying this, a person's intellect is decided by the questions that they ask, not by the answers they provide. How you think is shown by the answer. So, I'm sorry panelists, but if I was in the student today, I would put so many questions to the panelists. I would put them in so much of trouble. I'm sorry to say this, but that's the duty of a panel. They might not know the full answers, but you must ask the right questions. Okay? Because both your personal safety, your peace, your security, and mine, and all of our panelists, is in the future generations of cybersecurity, engineers, lawyers, and digital specialists. So the takeaway, as I mentioned earlier, this is a team effort. Professor Rajbaksh mentioned. Now, SLIIT only had one faculty, but we had a very good team that year. But they from their difficult first batch, they came back and gave us a full run, like that. Teams, when you come together, you can do marvelous things. Okay? Cyber criminals might think they have AI and they can win. But if you work together, legal, engineering, if you work together, I don't have to worry about my future. Why? Because I know all of you who are here are there to protect you. Am I right, Professor? I'm sure SLIIT is the ideal institution where law and cybersecurity is going to merge. And when I'm leaving this, I go home thinking, because the students organize this, right? That shows. I'm going home knowing that my future, my son's future, is in good hands. Although you guys might not say it, I'm sure you know it. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. Sehan, please remain on stage. To deliver his talk for precision, I now invite Professor Anurag Jayapati, Head Department of Computer Systems Engineering, and Professor Kushanti Harasdrama, Head School of Law, Faculty of Humanity and Sciences. Sehan, for that insightful and thought-provoking keynote address.
At this moment, I would like to take a moment to express our sincere appreciation to the distinguished guests who have joined us today and contributed to this conference.
Mr. Sehan Soisa, who joined us as a chief guest.
Professor Baksha, Senior Deputy Vice Chancellor and Provost.
Professor Nuan Godawara, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Faculty of Computing.
Professor Dasulina Vinga, Associate Dean, Research, Faculty of Computing.
Professor Anurag Jagoti, Head of Department, Computer Systems Engineering.
Professor Kushanti Haraskama, Head, School of Law, Faculty of Humanities and Sciences.
And with that, we are now moving on to our first panel discussion, focusing on a subject at the very heart of today's evolving cyber landscape: cybercrime investigation, digital evidence and rise of AI. And this session will discuss digital forensics in cybercrime investigations, admissibility and reliability of digital and AI-generated evidence, AI-assisted cybercrime investigations and forensic methodologies, deepfakes, misinformation and digital evidence manipulation, cross-border cybercrime and emerging AI-driven threats, legal, ethical and regulatory challenges in AI in cybercrime investigations.
As cyber threats become increasingly sophisticated, the investigation of cybercrime is no longer limited to traditional digital traces. Artificial intelligence is challenging the way threats are detected, evidence is analyzed, and even the way digital evidence can be created, manipulated, or challenged. This raises important technical, investigative, and legal questions around the reliability and integrity of digital evidence.
To moderate this important discussion, we are honored to have with us Professor Harindra Fernando, Professor at the Department of Computer Systems Engineering at SLIIT. Professor Fernando is an accomplished academic in cybersecurity researcher with extensive experience spanning cybersecurity, networking, machine learning, computer vision, IoT, and network security. He holds a PhD in computing from Durham University, Australia, and brings more than 18 years of experience in tertiary education across Australia and Sri Lanka. He currently serves as cluster lead of the SLIIT's Information Assurance and Security Research Cluster, and as the program coordinator for the MSc in Cybersecurity.
His research interests include deep learning-based attack detection, network security, IoT security, deepfake detection, misinformation detection, and securing artificial intelligence systems against emerging threats such as prompt injection.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming Professor Harindra Fernando and the panelists for session 1.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. So today we will be having 3 panel members for the first session. So first of all, I'd like to invite Mr. Laksiri Geeta. He is a senior superintendent of the police, and he also serves as the director of information technology division of the Sri Lanka Police. So he's a very valuable member of our law enforcement machine. He works directly with the intersection of law enforcement, technology and digital investigations. And in his capacity, he is working to oversee technology-driven capabilities supporting our law enforcement. Next, we have Ms. Sunari Dandenia. She is the Chief Information Security Officer of the Commercial Bank of Ceylon PLC, and she has worked in the bank in various leadership capacities for over 2 decades. So with that experience, she will be able to contribute on how banks and other financial institutes combating or managing cyber threats. Ms. Sunari? And finally, we have Mr. Senalika Devalavatta, he is a manager of information security at Sri Lanka, sir, one of the premier consulting firms when it comes to cybersecurity in Sri Lanka. So he has much experience working both with the private and public sector and law enforcement. So he will provide institutional perspectives on threats, information security, and the coordination required by different parties when combating cyber crimes. So before we start the panel, I just want to set the stage. So we have all heard the concept of the term cybersecurity, but now that is changing. Now the new term that is being used or coming for the forefront is cyber resilience. And I think that encapsulates the vision of the panel's discussion today. Because we have moved away from the concept that we will just try to protect our information or our infrastructure and hope for the best, because it has proven that security alone does not work. So now the focus has moved onto resilience, which is how can a company or an individual or even a country move forward in the face of successful attacks. It's not just how do we stop it. When we get attacked and when the attack is successful, what do we do? How do we still continue? That is the thinking now, and that is what this panel's focus will be. So let's start off first, Mr. Geeta, with what happens after attack, right? So normally in any attack, the first 24 to 48 hours are the most important. So if you can just tell the audience, after attack has happened, it's been successful, and the police has been informed, what happens?
Yes, first of all, I thanks SLIIT to invite me to as a panelist here. So as a police investigation officer, so when we come to the cybercrime investigations things, so whatever the report of the Sri Lanka police, so whatever incidents, it may be a cybercrime or whatever, so we want to do our investigation first. So in cybercrimes, so several sources we have reported some incidents. So through the CERT, through our online platforms, so it is direct complaints, so like that. So in 24 hours, 48 hours, actually it is not successful. We cannot do the successful investigations in the 24 hours to the 48 hours. It's not reliable. So within that hours, we are getting our prompt actions to prevent or some reservations or some initial investigation to conduct investigations. So what actually capable in Sri Lankan police we have now. So actually a lot of times people are difficult to lodge a complaint in our police stations because there's no proper channel to how they can lodge, what are the capabilities the police officers have to conduct the investigations. So now actually we are focusing digital platform, the centralized digital platform for the filer complaints, how you can file the complaints through the digitally. So from the digitally lodge a complaint, after that it's automatically go to our specialized units. So we have specialized units in CID, so Criminal Investigation Department, and other several branches in Sri Lanka, Jaffna, Kurunegala, Kandy, and Ampara we have the small units, so cater this one, but it's not enough. So then actually I am in the director of the information technology divisions. So we have 39 subunits. So under the subunits we are catering some extent some complaints. So we are supporting to investigations. We are not actually investigate, but we are supporting to investigate officers actually in our normal police stations. So these are some mechanisms now are going on, but in future I know we have going to fully digitalize our systems from lodge a complaint to the court. So online systems we have developed. So I think in future we can you can see what the other police have the systems are digitalized and how they going to work in digital platforms.
So that means even cyber crimes can be reported at any police station or substation now?
Yeah, same. Actually the centralized systems we are developed, and you can see in September after 3rd we are going to launch our police app as for the public, and same as our officers we have a separate app. So through the apps you can lodge a complaint, and you have the special events we have given. What are the categories we have mentioned in the app, and we are introducing SOS button. So immediate actions, whatever now actually when you going to call the 119 and others platforms, they will take times. But within seconds, I think 10 seconds, you can lodge a complaint through your app. So it will come in September.
Okay. Just a follow-up. So once the report or complaint is filed, there will be a certain process, and then you need to have evidence at the end of the process. From your perspective, where is the bottleneck, especially for cyber crimes, when collecting digital or whatever required evidence? Where do you see the bottlenecks in the current process?
Actually, when we come to the certain bottlenecks can be seen in our institutional bottlenecks we have. Actually, according to our law, the Computer Crime Act, so we have the special trained officers who can access the devices, and they can conduct some investigation in the forensic manner. So that is a limitation actually. The other police officers cannot access into the some devices without that proper certifications. So the certification must take from the IGP police. So it is actually the bottleneck. So because some our in the branches we have several police stations, 610 stations, but they cannot actually go to the systems or the access to the devices without their certification. So that is the reluctant to they are going to investigate. That's why they are sent to these complaints to our CID or the special units. So we will cater for that one also. So in the future we are going to establish some specialized units in each district. So it will.
Normally you would get news most probably in parallel for a big breach. So where do you step in, and is there a formal process how police and CERT work together?
Yeah. Thank you for inviting for this very good session. In the previous keynote speech, Mr. Shehan, he was mentioning about some of the very interesting legal books that is on the way to get enacted. So if I may take little time to talk about CERT, is it okay, Professor Harinder, if I may go through what CERT is?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, now if I ask someone from this audience what CERT is, someone will say that okay, if your WhatsApp get hacked, you go to SLIIT. That is not what SLIIT is. So SLIIT, it got established in 2006. Since the inception, now it has matured into a national level agency where we have established National Cybersecurity Operations Center. We are 10 organizations, around 15 organizations got connected, and we have another detection engine, what we call it as malware and system threat hunting lab, where we monitor 150 government organizations connected to it. And also we have policy and regulation unit where we have already formulated 5-year cybersecurity strategy and information and cybersecurity policy for government organization, which Mr. Shehan was talking about earlier. And also we are into formulating the upcoming Cybersecurity Act. As a result, the SLIIT will be elevated as the operational arm of the proposed Cybersecurity Regulatory Authority. So that is very high level work that we are engaged with. When it comes to the role that we are playing in collaboration with the police, when it comes to the investigation, it's actually now we don't have any enforcement power to go and arrest criminals. So it is the police who does that. So what we do is, our mandate is to provide the technical support and the advisory. So what happens is, there are 3 channels when it comes to cyber crimes. Voluntarily, someone who got victimized, they will report to either to police or to SLIIT. And also, we have, as I mentioned, we have 2 detection engines, NCSOC and MATLAB. So once we get to know that organization got hacked or malware got seep into the organization, then we inform that organization. Then it's their call either to go to police or to ask help from the SLIIT. And also the third channel would be someone is reporting directly to the police, where police will ask Sri Lanka SLIIT to provide the technical assistance. So those are the 3 channels. Now, you were talking in the previous question about what are the challenges or the lacunas they have when it comes to the investigation. I would like to add a little to that question. The thing is, when the incident happens in first hour, the things that we need to do is, when it comes to the incident response, we have to restore the session. So most of the valuable evidence get lost, and that is the containment part. But the police need the evidence, so we need to preserve the findings, right? So it goes in a different direction. So we have to keep that balance. So that is what we are doing. Now, we don't do it in isolation. We work with Sri Lanka police to preserve the evidence without doing any harm to the setup. So now the collaboration that we need to establish with police, it's like I would put it this way. Now, we don't have any sort of, we don't have a memorandum of understanding or any other tools that we have to follow. I mean, we need to establish that. That is the gap that we have. I think upcoming Cybersecurity Regulatory Authority will have that mandate for all the organization to report when the incident happens. Most of the incidents get unreported. So when it happens, I think we have a very good pipeline to establish that the evidence get reported to the court without tampering that data. So that is how it is when it comes to the working with Sri Lanka Police and Sri Lanka SLIIT.
Okay, so just is there any situations in which the involvement of SLCert is legally required or regulatory requirement? Like maybe a big bank, there's a compromise, or there's a government organization. Is there any kind of compulsory requirement for any kind of crime? Or is it always optional and depending on the situation?
Yeah, you have to be very honest with this one. Because at the moment we don't have that mechanism as it. So that is one of my mention. So that will be addressed in the upcoming Cybersecurity Act, especially when it comes to the critical information infrastructure. There's a separate section, as I understand, that the head of the organizations are mandated. I mean, they are required to report the incident to the Cybersecurity Regulatory Authority, and that's a requirement. So that is the gap that will be addressed through the Cybersecurity Regulatory Authority.
Okay, so going forward, there will be a lot more legal requirements for CERT's involvement. Okay, thank you very much. So moving on now, you yourself mentioned the importance of securing the evidence. So, Ms. Dandenia, I would like to know now, as a bank, you have a very kind of strong digital presence. And when an attack happens, hypothetically, there's going to be a tension. Because one thing is you have to have the business running, and the other thing is now you need to secure the evidence, and the server running means the security and the evidence is going to be compromised. So how is this handled in a big financial institute? What are the steps or procedures in place? And also, how is that tension resolved? Right? You know, for example, a critical server has been attacked. What do you do in that case? You might not be able to shut it down. So how is it handled?
Thank you, Professor, and very good morning to everyone. So, as Professor said, it's a very tough situation. Okay, right. So, it's a situation that can create a lot of pressure because you have a business to run. At the same time, you need to preserve the evidence. So, if you talk about containment and preserving the evidence, I would say I would not see those two as two competing objectives. Rather, in a mature incident response plan, both should happen together. So, take a situation, for instance, we have a situation or an incident where an attacker is actively moving across the network laterally, breaching a privileged account, maybe manipulating transactions or accelerating customer data. So in such a situation, as a CISO, as an incident response team, incident response manager, I can't say don't touch anything because we need to preserve the evidence, because our first preference is to stop the harm, make sure that the system is secure and that the customers are safeguarded. On the other hand, just because of that, I can't also let someone in the heat of the moment go and shut down or reboot the server because that may destroy the evidence which would tell has happened. So what we need to do is actually a balance. So what can happen is other than containment and evidence preservation, so I would also like to highlight the difference between containment and eradication. So immediately what we need to do is try and contain the situation. So if there is an endpoint that is compromised, isolate that. If there is a privileged account that is breached, then disable it temporarily, stop the access, but still maintain the logs. So you can isolate, you can contain, but eradication is something different. Eradication happens subsequently, where you stop the attacker, cleanse the system, and then try to recover and rebuild. So in between containment and eradication, so along with containment, you should be doing the evidence preservation before you go into the eradication. But of course, now none of this, if it happens as it usually do, at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning, That is not the time for you to making that call to see, okay, are you going to contain, who can isolate the system, who can bring down the system, who is going to call the law. So as Professor mentioned, so now it's not about cyber security, it's about cyber resilience. It's not anymore a case if a bank or an organization would get hacked, it's when. So it's all about preparedness. For instance, now a commercial bank, as the case with many other banks, as mandated by Central Bank of Sri Lanka, so we are aligning our information security incident response procedures with ISO 27035. So a key part of this incident response is actually the preparation. So you need to have your playbook defined with the responsibilities and who's going to do what in case of an incident, and not only a well-written playbook that is board approved, but it's very important that you have this rehearsed. You can have a beautifully written playbook, but you realize that at the time of an incident where everyone from the board down wants to know every 2 minutes what's happening, have we resolved it, have we contained it, when is the system going to be up. That's sometimes what's written does not work so harmoniously. So you need to prepare beforehand, you need to do your tabletops. So better you understand what's lacking during a tabletop or a rehearsal rather than at the time of an incident. So I think in short, what we need to have is a prepared plan where I need to first of all protect the customer, contain the system, do the preservation, and then go for eradication, which should be a well thought of, well rehearsed plan, not something that you should be doing at the spur of the moment.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Mr. Geethan, you have something to contribute.
So preservation is very important. But before the preservation, you can inform immediately the certain as well as the police. So we can do some. We have the provision in our computer act. We can intercept the systems for the communications. So we can without court order we can do. So thing is, we want to immediately inform our units because some incidents happen. You have mentioned in the bank's incidents. So it is late to inform to the police. So if it is if they inform us earlier, so the preservation can do the online. So the live forensics we can start the investigations. So we can intercept the systems, so we can intercept the communications, so those are available. But thing is, whatever that happened after several days or the several period, they are reporting the incident. So that is the biggest problem in Sri Lanka. When we going to conduct our investigations, we are having some available evidence to prove in the court. So that is the thing before that. So immediately inform is the very important.
Just for me to know, if anyone knows, is there a mandatory reporting requirement for cyber crimes in Sri Lanka at the moment? Any rule that says you have to report it?
It is not mandatory. It is having in all laws. Whatever the incident happened, it is related to the crime, so you want to report it to the police. But in cybercrime, so it's better to inform the special unit in CID. So if you have any incidents occur in your institutes or any personal systems, so you can immediately inform the CID. So they will start the investigations immediately. So we can preserve, we can intercept those things we can do.
Okay, thanks very much. So continuing on Mr. Geethan, I'd also like to know how much AI is currently being used by the Sri Lanka police in general for forensic investigations, evidence gathering, even things like log analysis. And then also specifically when it comes to cybercrime, what is the rule or regulations or just the practice?
So first of all, I want to take this critical questions. Actually, when we are going to adopt the AI, we want to have disciplines. So we have the institutional standards procedures for how we use the AIs in police service. So, but we are normally using when we want to wanted suspects, they create images. So we use now AI. But in earlier we hand draw. But now we are drawing the hands and we are putting into the AI and we are taking some shapes of the suspect's face and his body and his hair like that. We can take that. But we are not actually use this AI evidence into the court because it is supportive some tricks for the investigator to find the real suspect. So like that we have some limited, we have some lines to how we can use the AI. So we have big data, traffic, the crime, and when we come to the child and women's sectors, so we have big data. So we use some AI to predict the data. So then after that we are taking some actions to how to act proactive and how we let our intelligence to work with these technologies, use how we can use this into our investigations and protect our citizens. So it is actually, one other thing is whatever we use, we have some limits, so we have boundaries. So normally when we come to the proof of innocence, so peoples, so it is must, because whatever we use, that's must. We want to consider their proof of innocence in law. So that is one side of the AI use. So other one is actually we have now we are establishing centralized incident management system. So we are going to introduce the AI to predict the incidents, how to act our police officers and how to get decisions when the incidents occur. And those are actually separate LLM we are creating for the police, so that we use to our systems.
Okay, so now let's take an example. We have a lot of crimes now taking place with AI generated images. Now a lot of the modern techniques for kind of detecting this again is using AI. So in Sri Lanka, what is the norm in that kind of situation? What would be used?
Actually, if anyone use the AI to destroy our evidence or mislead our evidence, it will actually another offense. So that is another offense. But however, we have the tools to detect this is the AI created or not. So with these tools, we are used for the real evidence, to take the real evidence. So somehow you have seen in our public when some suspects we are getting custodies, that time they are creating some videos and animations mislead the situations, mislead our custodies and how the behaviors of police officers behaving. Like that, they are going to misinterpret some things. So those are offenses actually, because in our criminal procedures we have clearly said no one can mislead the investigations. So it is an offense. So that's discipline should we have any the technical AI use officers or AI use citizens, they want to know these are also offences. So they want to carefully use, because now we are actually in future we have going to establish these the misleading informations, misleading these videos are generating and they are publishing. So we have some systems to detect that one. Where from and like that we can investigate.
So that detection is done kind of manually or using AI?
Using AI platform, and other thing is the scam alert system. So scam alert system also we have now proposed our proposals to develop the systems. So that's scam alerts also same. So before the scams happen, so we can alert. So collaboration with our telecommunications ISPs and the financial intelligence units. So with the banks and all. So we are going to establish proactive alert, scam alert to all citizens, to the SMSO or whatever through the media. We can alert them whatever come to the Sri Lanka.
So, but as you mentioned, currently in Sri Lanka, use of AI as evidence or AI-based evidence is not acceptable in court. Is that correct?
Yeah. Actually, AI-based evidence is not acceptable. Actually, all we want to prove in the court what we use the prompt. The prompt engineering is very important one when we come to the AI. So if it is we can prove in the court how we use this AI to detect the evidence. So it will admissible. Otherwise, we cannot
use it as evidence. Fine. Okay. Moving on, Mr. Devalavatta. Now we heard about bit how AI is used or cannot be used by the law enforcement in Sri Lanka, but we know AI is being very commonly used by cyber criminals. So can you tell us what you are seeing from a cybercrime perspective with the use of AI, what's happening especially in Sri Lanka? I think this is very important for the young people out there to understand the threats you are facing.
Yeah, actually now when it comes to our experience, it's now as I mentioned, we have two detection engine, one is SOC and the other one is MATLAB. So where I'm heading. Now in MATLAB we have a solution where we have, which is AI powered to generate cyber threat intelligence and dissemination, and also it looks into dark web and deep web to find out what are the leak credentials of monitored organizations. And we have external attack surface management module on it. Also, we do take down services when it comes to the phishing website. Now, with regards to the AI, actually, what our experience is, we will take it separately now. We will see what the real experience is and what you think it is. Now, what we think it is now during the Mr. Shehan's keynote speech, he was mentioning about incident happened in 2024 in Hong Kong. As I remember, that was Arul in Hong Kong. One financial, individual got into email, coming from his CFO from UK, asking him to, do some, confidential financial transaction. But he was skeptical. Then he was trying to arrange a video call where he witnessed his CFO and a few of his known colleagues was present in the video call, which was a deep fake. But he was a little worried, but he did not have any reason to think otherwise. Then he did the transaction in, I think, about 5 transactions and $25 million were transferred. So that was one of the incidents when it comes to AI in cyber criminal incidents. But one would ask, okay, if it is the same case in Sri Lanka, we had few incidents reported to us. One is the president was deepfake in one of the videos. It was said that President was recommending to invest finance in advising to do some investment, which was a deepfake issue, and there were another incident. The cricket player Kumar Sangakkara was deepfake, and those are the two incidents. And one might say that is a hype, like, but when it comes to our detection engine, it is not the same case actually. Now we are monitoring 150 organizations. What our experience is, the basic cyber hygiene is not maintained. Like we get to know some of the findings through external attack surface management. Some of the ports are not closed, unwanted ports are not closed, certificates are expired, and some of the web services are outdated, patching is not done. So that is the real case actually in Sri Lanka in our experience. So what could have been the real solution, rather the practice is to follow the basic cyber hygiene when it comes to the government organization and their external public facing digital infrastructure. That is our experience, and the solution would be to as I already mentioned, to follow the basic cyber security hygiene and do the hardening of the external attack surface to avoid the government organization being hit.
So I think that highlights the importance of even basic cyber hygiene to everybody. So going on to Mr. Dandania, now when we were talking about how the handoff happens, now evidence gathering, it's different because sometimes it's not just the server that was compromised that will have the evidence. So from your perspective, a financial institute, when they're handing over the evidence, how does it work? Do you allow or does the police come in and go through all the servers, or do you collect the evidence you see is kind of what you can hand over? How does that process work?
Yeah. Usually what would happen is whether we call the police in the first instance or whether we would do the initial investigation on our own, I think it's a situational based call. At the very inception, so we would, as I said earlier, we would do the basic containment, and of course sometimes these evidence preservation, maintain, chain of custody, these require a special set of skills that might not necessarily be available in all the organizations. So what we do is in those instances, so we have arrangements with CERT, maybe Sri Lanka CERT, so there is a special financial sector CERT under the central bank who supports the banks, and there are other private CERTs as well. So if you do not have the necessary skill set to do the evidence collection, of course we would get the services from one of those CERTs or expert organizations. Generally we would not, the law enforcement will not come and directly get involved in the evidence collection part. Of course, what's important is as part of our incident response plan, we have defined the evidence management procedure as well. So who can do what, and where we do not have the expertise, we will of course engage the relevant expert parties. But I think what's important is even when you're handing over things to the law enforcement, so if I just give, like if there has been some unauthorized transactions, if I just give 5 GB of transaction logs, I don't think that's going to help the law enforcement or any of the investigators. So I think what's more important is, that's really data. but I think what's important is that we give evidence and investigation ready data. So I think that's what will make an investigation successful. And to do that, I think it's not just a bunch of logs, but you have to put context around it. So for it to be evidence ready, investigation ready, you have to be able to answer a couple of questions like, okay, what happened, when it happened, who or what was involved, how did it happen, and most importantly, whether that evidence, the data has been tampered or altered. So I think if you can answer these basic questions, then you are providing evidence-ready data. Then also the timeline. So if, for example, 5 unauthorized transactions have happened through online, but you have to put a timeline from the time, okay, the customer was authenticated, maybe there was a new device added, from that point we see some unusual transactions, so time synchronization. So as he mentioned, it's very basic, but I think when we go to investigations, that's one of the areas we see that is very much lacking. Your a core banking system would have one time, your firewall would have another time, your access control system would have another time, and it's very difficult to construct incidents. So timeline and also context. So if you are preserving any evidence, then who has done it, what is the source of the system, how have they done it, have they tampered, original copy, do we have a forensic copy? So I think all of these things need to be taken into consideration when we are providing data, if we want a proper investigation done. So as I said, generally we would get the expertise from and experts in this area rather than the law enforcement directly getting involved.
Okay, so just like how much training or knowledge does the cybersecurity teams of finance or banks have when it comes to like evidence gathering? Because if you don't gather it, as you said, if you don't gather it properly, I don't think it will be admissible in court. So what's that? How is that handled, that training or the need for that training?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question. So, I mean, unfortunately, I would say right now we do not have the necessary skill set for that in the finance sector. So that's why we usually rely on the certs or the defined experts to do that. Definitely a skill set we need to improve. So the regulator has mandated all the the financial institutions and the banks, as I said, to be certified under the ISO 27035 standard for incident management, which also speaks about how you manage the evidence, the chain of custody. So, I mean, as it is, we are struggling with resources for the cybersecurity, and this is a very specialized sector. So I think this is a very good opportunity for our students who are looking to come into the field, and it's a very exciting field as well. So definitely we do not right now have the required amount of skill set within the banks to do that. So that's a skill set we need to improve.
Okay. So, Mr. Geeta, going on now, we were talking about evidence. So chain of custody is very important. Can you talk to us a bit about how digital chain of evidence is currently implemented? What are the requirements and what are the problems you see when you are trying to collect and preserve the chain of custody for digital evidence?
So actually, this is a very important question and sensitive one. When we come to the court, we want to conduct our chain of custody. If we break the chain of custody, whatever the physical or digital evidence, so we will lose our entire case. So lot of cases actually walking from the court due to the chain of custody. So it is a chain of custody is very important. That's why I think we mentioned the financial institutions, how they are working. So whatever the incident happened, so first we are asking the institute or the persons, the assistants, preserve that one and inform us, because we want to get the original evidence and we want to send it to the specialist, to the forensic investigations, So meanwhile, we are doing the investigation, forensic investigations. So with that, some extractions, we are doing investigation in our laboratory. So we want to keep the real chain of custody. So somehow we are now using we are going to use the centralized incident management system. Through this one, we are going to use blockchain's procedures. So protocol and 20,000 the ISO 20,000. So these are compliance from police in our all system. So this is actually we can secure our chain of custody and our chain of the procedures. So and other than this, we are going to introduce standard procedures to follow the chain of custody, and we are going to train the officers how to follow the chain of custody, because the physical chain of custody is very easy to us to manage, but the digital is very complicated and sensitive. That's why I told some evidence can intercept and they can alter it. So we want to prove in court. So it is, the hash values and all are very important to us. So that is why we want the original evidence, whatever if a live server, so we can take without shutdown, we can take the live forensically, we can extract the data. So it will accept in the court. So we have some tools and capable officers to do these investigations. So a chain of custody actually it is must when we go to the court to prove our case. So that's why we are going to establish separate cybercrime investigation divisions for the entire Sri Lanka. So it is a dedicated officers and dedicators for the cybersecurity.
This is new initiative or currently it's the...
No, actually we have currently some units or some division, some units, but it is in several places they are conducting some investigation. But we are going to take in one place and one group, and we are doing all investigations and cybersecurity, cyber surveillance, and the cyber investigations.
That looks like a good step going forward with the increase in crime. So Ms. Dhanadhania, just to know if you can, I'm not sure whether you are able to discuss this, but what are kind of the AI-based security defenses we have? And especially in the context of an attack happening, do you need to do anything additional to make sure that evidence or that information can be submitted to a court?
Okay, so I think Silvani can explain some of the AI-based attacks that we are currently facing. So generally, in the finance sector, as I said, there were some deepfakes. In fact, even there was a deepfake of the central bank governor himself. So there are deepfakes, and of course, when it comes to the internal party fit and even customers. So I mean, phishing was always there, but of course, AI is making the scale and the speed supporting that. So I mean, basically, I mean, how you teach to detect the phishing, the spelling mistakes. So I mean, all of those things are now not there. AI-based phishing, social engineering has become. I mean, the speed and scale within which an attackers perform these actions have increased, particularly because the biggest, I mean, the issue the banks are facing is the scams, not really the breaches and the attacks. Though, I mean, sometimes in the media this is used interchangeably. It is the scams that customers are falling for rather than the bank system being breached. So the customers fall for impersonation, and with AI it becomes much more easy now. For instance, now generally once a website is impersonated. So earlier, I mean, there was a fake site, a customer will go and put the credentials there, someone will collect that data, and maybe on a subsequent day they will use it on the actual website of the bank to do a transaction, but now it is done through bots. So there are so many scams. So the moment the customer is logging into the system, behind there is a bot who is collecting this data and doing unauthorized transactions out of the customer's actual account. So now, since the attackers are using AI, of course the banks also need to use this AI versus AI. So since the offenders are using AI, then the defenders also need to use AI. So most of the banks, including us now, for our fraud management systems, for our SOCs, so now we are increasingly incorporating AI so that we can use AI to scan or investigate large amounts of data and sort of predict the patterns before something happens. So proactively we can look if there is, we are using agentic AI to prevent certain things. So definitely fraud monitoring and SOC monitoring, banks and financial institutions are increasingly using AI to face the AI-related attacks. But one thing you also asked about how it becomes, when it becomes evidence. So I think when you are using an AI model to detect something, and even I think if you go and prevent something. So sometimes you can use AI. So for example, I may get an alert from my fraud monitoring saying there is a unusual transaction with a maybe a CVT rate of 19%. So that an unusual transaction doesn't necessarily mean it's a fraudulent transaction. So AI will give me the alert, but I need to, I think usually we need the human in the loop to make the call. So it may be an actual transaction where the customer is overseas and trying to use a card, or it may be some unusual thing that a corporate customer has not done, but it's genuine. So you need the human in the loop to make the judgment and take the call. But if you go one step further, and if you actually prevent, use AI to maybe freeze an account or block an account, then I think the governance around the AI model itself becomes important. So now if I'm saying, giving evidence, I think to the law enforcement saying that this was triggered by my AI model, I can't just say, okay, I'm saying so because my AI model says so. But you need to know, okay, what was the model that was used? Was this model validated for false positives, for hallucinations? What was the data set? Because if you use biased data, then your outcome could also be biased. And I think you should also be able to, 6 months down the line, the models keep on getting developed. If you're using the same model 6 months later, maybe that 98% would be different. So if you're using it as evidence, you must be able to produce the governance around it, the versioning, the data, the models and everything. So I think that becomes important.
So the quality of the model is important, and being able to defend the quality.
Absolutely.
Something comes up.
Whether it's, the validation of the model. So I think this is where now banks are increasingly looking at this model risk management. So as you said, what is the prompt that we have given, what is the data, what is the model, versus is there biasness, is there hallucination? So that validation and the governance around the models becomes important.
So Ms. Devadatta, just looking at the regulatory landscape, what do you see happening in Sri Lanka when it comes to cybercrime, and do you think what is happening is timely and is it sufficient?
Yeah, as I already mentioned, actually now Cybersecurity Act is coming up and the PDPA is already in place. Now, if I take, before I get into the reporting with regards to the AI, now what is happening in the current context is, it's not a situation where we can be happy, like, the reporting is not mandatory, like, but when the Cybersecurity Regulatory Authority is in place, possibly this year, so the reporting is mandatory and the incident will be reported to the regulator. But if we get into the AI reporting, we there will be a situation AI is used as a tool to attack, and maybe it's attack surface management sort of things, and it may be involved with data. But in that case, in my opinion, we don't know whether we should report it to upcoming CSRA or the DPA. So in that case, the maybe once the CSRA bill is put into the public consultation, maybe the academia and the other experts can come up with the idea whether to include the AI reporting, incident reporting into the act. I think that is the best way forward. So the police, the law enforcement, the Ministry of Digital Economy, and maybe the regulators like CBSL will have stake on it.
Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Dadan here, from your perspective now, you are in finance, which is one of the most regulated sectors. So, what is CBSL kind of doing when it comes to cybercrime, and what are the regulations they are bringing out? Do you see anything? Do you think it's enough? Especially because regulations come at a cost of business process, kind of adaptability. So, how do you see that working at the moment in Sri Lanka? Do you think it's enough or not enough?
So when it comes to reporting per se, so last year Central Bank introduced this circular where all IT and cybersecurity related incidents, including the scams, to be reported to CBSL within a given timeline. So there is an immediate reporting timeline within 2 hours of detection of an incident. Whether we have taken the prevention action or not, we are supposed to inform the Central Bank within 2 hours. Then the detailed report we need to submit within 14 days, and another quarterly report. I think this is a very good initiative because now generally sometimes banks feel that reporting an incident may cause a reputational damage. You sort of want to keep things under wraps. But this central reporting is very important because what can happen to commercial bank can happen to another bank. So in terms of the prevention, I think this direction of mandatory reporting, of course there's some work involved with the bank, the documentation part. I think it's important that this direction is there, but what we would like to see, and I think what Central Bank is also working into, okay, all this data is collated, but beyond that, to look at that data and give us some indications of, what are the patterns that they're seeing. Of course, quarterly, periodically, Central Bank gets the CIOs, CISOs and explain that these are the trends that they have seen. But I think we can work more with that data to be more proactive. And of course, we also report to the financial CERT, as I said, particularly in terms of this phishing sites, impersonation, to get their support for the takedown.
That's a mandatory requirement.
Central bank reporting is a mandatory requirement. And others, sorry?
FinCERT?
FinCERT, it's not mentioned in a circular or a regulation, but we are expected to report, but it's not mandatory in terms of a circular. So, but I think it's in our best interest that we report it so that, a wider scale attack can be stopped.
Thanks very much. So the final question is going to Mr. Geeta. So this is regarding the ethics behind the use of AI, because now we know with the amount of crimes happening both cyber and physical, there is the possibility of using AI for things like monitoring both online activity and offline as well, even information, misinformation, mostly it's there. So there is ethical kind of concerns here. So what is happening there, and what do you see going forward in Sri Lanka when it comes to the use of AI for monitoring of people and how that will work out?
Actually, when we come to the ethicals of the AI, when you use the AI, whatever the use, so the people, the citizens have to live with the dignity and protect their rights and protect their privacy. These are in our laws, we can see. So So in law, actually in investigation, law enforcement agencies like police. So we are actually more concerned to their privacy protections. So we are complying with the Personal Data Protection Act as well as the other regulations issued in government's digital economy ministry, and I think several they have issued circulars and standards. So when we come to the investigations perspective, whatever we are use the AI for the targeted specific the specific things. So that means whatever that when we come to the AI image generation, and we are going to use the in CCTV to check with the imaging online. So we have the established in Mandana Airport CCTV systems. So when we come to that one, so actually specific targeted pictures and we are using, not in the massly surveillance.
Not public surveillance, but restricted areas.
Restricted area and restrict the targeted things only that we are using. So this is actually we are complying with personal protections, data protections and the personal, because we want to build the citizens' trust and the integrity, transparency through our investigations and whatever the conduct in police, especially in cybercrime. So a lot of people have misunderstand whatever they report to the police, they will leak or they will misuse their information and they are protecting the privacy, but it not happen. Actually, when you come to our child and children and youth days, so we have a lot of cases. So we have protected the privacy and their integrity, their trust we have built. So we have separate divisions, separate specialized investigation units for that cater that kind of thing. So and we have regular audit system. So what happened in actually how we comply in the PDPA. So those are conducting by the Sri Lanka police inside the audits.
Internal audits.
Internal audits.
Right.
So protect and make the trust of the citizens. So we are actually another one is actually I mentioned the presumption of innocence. So we actually not prejudice the presumption of the innocence.
Innocent until proven guilty.
Yes, that's we want to conduct. So many the standard procedures we have introduced for this, and we have lines. We have limitations how we can use the AI and how we comply with the personal data protection act and all.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. So I think that wraps up our panel discussion. We can have maybe one, maximum 2 questions because we are a bit behind time. So I'll open up the panel for any questions from the audience.
Given the history of government using private individuals' personal information,
You'll have to go a bit slower.
given the history of government using private individuals' personal information without their permission, what are the things lawmakers should consider in making laws about protecting citizen information from the government and third parties?
Who would like to answer? So basically they are asking.
No, that's why I told that the Personal Data Protection Act that's given the fully protection of the privacy data. So Online Safety Act and the Cybercrime Safety Bill also is coming. So these are actually for the protection of privacy. Whatever in future actually when we come to the national digital grouping, there's a citizen app, called citizen app. So through these citizen apps, we can get some information throughout all the institution, but it's a limit. Sometimes when I say the example, whoever can apply for the clearance for the abroad or their employments, if they want to get the clearance from Sri Lanka police, so they can apply. So whatever the clearance we are giving, so we want to get from the information from the NIC, sometimes our agencies and immigrations like that. But in future here, so we cannot get the direct to the NIC's information without concern of the applicant. So it will go to sometime when we check the NIC information, so it will alert to the applicant whether you are going to give this information or not. So like that we have some statistics. So whoever asks, sometime some organization or the citizen can ask whether these persons have criminal records. So sometimes we are only giving only the yes or no. Like that we are protecting their privacy and the data, whatever we are gathered from the public. So it is must in future. So that's why actually the Privacy Data Protection Act and the Online Safety Bill and the Cybersecurity Act also give the protection.
Would any of the other panelists like to contribute to this answer?
Yeah, I think it's very encouraging to hear what Mr. Geeta mentioned with regard to protection of the privacy. So I think some time back, as we correctly said, there was this perception that if you submit the data to the police, it can get leaked. Because there were situations, I remember, even in banks. So when the bank robberies were, CCTV recordings of those robberies were given, we used to see them coming up in the news at the end of the day. So there was a lot of concern about the secrecy of the information that we are providing. So I think to that extent, the Data Protection Act, as I said, will play a huge part when the police and the law enforcement is also aligning to that. I think that would give the assurance to the citizens as well as the organizations to submit and report incidents. So I think sometimes that also keeps citizens from reporting because they don't want the exposure. So it's great to know that the law enforcement is also going to adhere to that very seriously. I think it's very encouraging.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think that will wrap up panel 1 for today. First of all, I would like to thank the 3 panelists for taking time out of their busy schedules to come and spend more than 1.5 hours with us on this. So hopefully everyone in the audience learned something new and got a better understanding of what is happening in this space. So shall we give a big round of applause for the panelists?
Thank you to our distinguished panelists and Professor Harinder Fernando for an engaging and insightful discussion. We will now proceed with the presentation of tokens of appreciation. Please remain on the stage. May we invite Dr. Samurthy Jaimaha and Mr. Kanish Kayapa to present the tokens of appreciation.
We first invite Mr. Lakshya Geeta, Senior Superintendent of Police, Director Information Technology, Sri Lanka Police. Ms. Sunal Dandeniya, Chief Information Security Officer, Commercial Bank of Ceylon, PLC. Thank you, dear panelists.
Dear team, we are now moving on to an interactive session. So I invite all of you to pay your attention to the screen.
The rising committee has confirmed that they did send the mail.
The email came from the official conference account.
That means someone has got access.
Send the cancellation email.
For now, that's not evidence. Not necessary.
Can we really access
Without it, you may never identify the target.
You have just examined the same evidence that investigators might encounter in a real cybercrime case. Some of it appears convincing, some of it may be misleading, some of it raises technical questions, while some raises legal and ethical ones. Before the panelists share their perspectives, let's see how you interpreted this evidence. This is the quiz you will get, so try to answer this. You have 10 minutes for the question.
So many of you reach different conclusions, and that's exactly what happens in the real investigation. So cybercrime cases are rarely solved by a single screenshot, a CCTV clip, or a voice recording. Investigators must establish authenticity, preserve the integrity of digital evidence, and operate within legal boundaries. Today's discussion will explore how technology, law, and ethics intersect when the evidence itself may be incomplete, manipulated, or open to interpretation.
We now move into our second panel discussion titled Privacy, Digital Rights, and Online Harassments. In an increasingly connected world, our digital identities and personal information have become an integral part of everyday our lives. With that connectivity comes important questions surrounding privacy, accountability, and digital rights, online safety, and responsible technology use.
To moderate this timely and important discussion, we are honored to have with us Mr. Abhi Pilapitiya, Director and CEO of Aeon Technology. Mr. Pilapitiya is a technological and cybersecurity industry leader with more than 30 years of experience. Currently, he is serving as the Managing Director and the CEO within the Aeon Group, whose technology portfolio encompasses network creativity, cybersecurity, data center solutions, cloud computing, automation, and artificial intelligence.
He has also played an active role in developing Sri Lanka's cybersecurity ecosystem, including initiatives focused on cybersecurity awareness, professional development, and industry talent. His extensive experience across cybersecurity, technology, and business provides a valuable industry and technology governance perspective to today's discussion, particularly when considering privacy, digital trust, organizational accountability, responsible technology adoption, and the evolving risk faced by individuals and institutions online.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming Mr. Abhi Pilapitiya and the panelists for session 2.
So, thank you all. Thank you for inviting me. We are running a little bit behind schedule, so try and have a compressed session, and I'm sure that is justice. So, the second session, privacy, digital rights, and online harassment, I think is very topical. I think we need a lot of critical discourse in this area. And in an increasingly disruptive time that we are in, with AI disrupting everything that we do and have known to do in the past, it's an important discussion that needs to be had. We see many governments struggling, both policymakers and policy enforcement agencies, trying to get the balance right in this very crucial area. So I would like to invite on stage to join me some industry leaders in this area who are currently engaging in critical discussion. First, I would like to invite on stage Professor Samira Vijayasinghe. And Professor Samira is a Professor Samira is a professor in legal studies at the Open University of Sri Lanka. He is also an attorney at law of the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka with a PhD in law from the Queensland University of Technology. His scholarship centers on digital regulation, intellectual property, and technology governance. And he has been a recurring expert panelist on Sri Lanka's Personal Data Protection Act and AI regulation. Please join me in welcoming Professor Samira. Next, I would like to invite on stage with me Mr. Suresh Emmanuel. Suresh is currently serving in the capacity of Chief Information Security Officer at Hatton National Bank, and he's been in this role since July 2020. He has an impressive list of credentials and qualifications to his name.
He holds a master's in cybersecurity and has held security leadership roles at Nations Trust Bank, LLC, Sri Lankan Airlines, PwC. He is also a fellow of the British Computer Society and a professional member of ISACA. And he currently chairs the CISO Community Circle under ISC. Welcome, Suresh. We then have Dr. Thusita Abesekara. Thusita is a senior lecturer and head of legal studies at the University of Sri Jawaharlal. He is also an attorney at law of the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka, and his research and public engagements focus on cybercrime, computer crime investigation, fundamental rights, and data protection, including, I was very impressed by this, widely cited comparative analysis of hate speech legislation presented at the National Reform Workshop. Welcome, Mr. Abesekara. Finally, I would like to welcome on stage Ms. Sandhuni Wickramasinghe. Sandhuni is an attorney at law with expertise in laws relating to privacy, data protection, digital rights, and governance. With a career spanning over a decade in both the public and private sector, she currently works as an independent legal providing consultancy services to both domestic and international organizations, primarily on personal data protection frameworks and legal matters concerning the digital space. She is also a fellow of the Information Privacy, a certified information privacy manager, and a certified information privacy professional. She is currently reading for her PhD in law at Leiden and also holds an LLM in law and digital technologies from Leiden. Welcome, Sandhuni. Okay, so our topic today is privacy, digital rights, and online harassment. Very topical, as I said. We all battle with this. Sometimes knowingly or unknowingly, we share a lot of information. The boundaries of human and machine are blurred. Human biases are infiltrating both the machine and what we do. Increasingly, data is being monetized. We know that the new oil, as they say, is data, so it's very current. And how we protect this asset, how we use it, is quite critical. So, to open up the session, if I can, I would like to open the session by asking Dr. Thusita Abesekara. Online harassment can take many forms, as we know, from cyberstalking and threats to impersonation and the non-consensual sharing of personal information or images. From a legal perspective, what challenges do victims in Sri Lanka face when attempting to seek protection or justice?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you all for inviting me for this wonderful discussion. In your question, basically you address the challenges. So there are many challenges come up with this area. The basic and paramount challenge is digital. The victim and the harm, damage, all digital. Unfortunately, the mechanism which need to be used for the challenge, which need to be used to find the solution for the challenge is traditional and very conservative. That's the basic challenge in here. And again, we can see that there are a number of challenges such as jurisdictional issues, evidence issues, finally, awareness issues. When we come into the workplace in Sri Lanka, at this moment, when we consider the ICT legal regime in Sri Lanka, with compared to the South Asia or even Asia, we have a very comprehensive legal system. Or I would say that we have a very comprehensive ICT legal regime. There are a number of acts. For example, Intellectual Property Acts, Payment Devices Fraud Act, Payment Settlement System Act, Computer Crime Act, Electronic Transaction Act, Interconnection Rules, Online Security Act, Personal Data Protection Act. So a number of laws are there. Some of them are in the pipeline. As we discussed, as we heard about the last panel, so Digital Economy Act at the build stage, at the very last moment of the bill stage and the drafting level. Again, the Cybersecurity Act. So, after being considered all of them, we can say that we do have a very good, very comprehensive legal mechanism. But still we do have problem. I will give you a good example. The Computer Crime Act, which was introduced in 2007. The Computer Crime Act number 24 of 2007. It was introduced in 2007. Since that date to up to now, we don't have a proper Supreme Court or Court of Appeal case. It does not necessarily mean that we don't have a problem, we don't have issue. We do have issues, but there's a problem with the mechanism. So in this way we can identify that we do have law, but we don't have proper implementation mechanism. It's one challenging period because of the digital. Our system, the problem is digital, but the solution finding mechanism is conservative or traditional. When we come into the jurisdictional issue, it is a well-known fact that the perpetrator may be in here, the system may be in here or any other country, right? So, three people basically in different three countries. So, it is very difficult to take a legal action in one jurisdiction. Especially if they are in another country, definitely we have to take the legal action with law of extradition in mind. Otherwise, we cannot take a fruitful decision. I have heard from a legal officer, actually the judicial officer. Normally, if we take a legal action with the support of law of extradition, normally it takes 15 years to take back that person to this country for the legal process. In this way, you can see how it takes happening practical scenario. The other problem in here that evidence. Of course, evidence are digital, a very sophisticated evidence. And our evidence law, basically it is traditional. Even though we do have very good law, which was introduced in 1995, the Evidence Special Provision Act number 14 of 1995, and again, Electronic Transaction Act and Computer Crime Act give kind of support to handle the evidence. But still, especially people who engage with the evidence collecting, they don't know how to do it. And those evidence are highly technical point. So it is another challenge in this field, the area. The popular problem, and I think personally this is the most important problem, that is awareness. We all are technical. We all know how to use technology, but we don't know the legality behind this technology. That's a big problem. Even victims, they don't know that this point violates their right. So they don't know how to take a legal action. So awareness is a big problem in this area. So basically we can see that there are a number of problems. Most popular and most important part is awareness. And other problems are digital, the jurisdiction issue, evidence issue, so on.
Thank you, this is very insightful. 15 years, that's a long time for prosecute something, yeah? If I can move on to Suresh. Suresh, many cybersecurity incidents, as we know, ultimately involve human behavior. From phishing, credential sharing, to social engineering. From an organizational perspective, how can we strengthen security without creating a culture where employees or customers feel constantly monitored or distrusted? How would you see this, Suresh, in your role?
Right, so thank you for having me here today. So I think it's a great question. So we used to see human part of the program, right? But actually the ideology should be also have to see the human also should be the solution to the problem, right? So just imagine, we've been teaching cybersecurity, right? So whom we consider the weakest link? Human, right? So we consider human as the weakest link. And also we teach about, especially when we implementing security, you have to consider assume breach or zero trust. That means by default you should not be trusting anybody or any services, right? So there's a little twist to this as well. Just imagine, we are an organization, we've been doing phishing simulation for over quite a number of years. By kind of understanding the patterns of human behavior and their habitual behaviors, specifically the challenges in devising a new habit or a routine to hit the end users is quite, heavy than you think. For example, especially when it comes to phishing, how users have been under, the common weakness is as soon as you get an email, you don't verify it much, you just go ahead and open it, you maybe click a link, submit some data, things like that. That's actually create a kind of a behavior, a habitual behavior of yours, which makes your organization vulnerable. But how you really change it is, it's quite challenging. Specifically, something you need to understand, the creating a cyber-aware culture makes it more important than kind of creating a culture where people feel they are insecure. For example, rather make people think that, as soon as they click something, they'll get penalized. Why don't you encourage them to, that's fine, you clicked it, but why don't you report it? As soon as you report it, the security teams and other incident responding teams, they can actually take actions. So if you create a culture which actually creates, people think that, they'll get penalized, or they most likely to be, hide certain things. Right. So there is always a say how you drive the security as well as how you maintain the performance or the user experience. That's quite challenging, right? So for another example, you can create to achieve the 100% security, you can create a probably organization information security policy that enforces probably about a 25 character password. Just imagine how many systems we have to go through to do our work day in there. Probably about at least a normal user in a bank probably have to go through probably about 5 to 6 systems. Can you even remember a 20 character password very easily, right? So in that case, probably you might achieve the security. Then what will happen? Users tend to write down their password. They make it even more vulnerable. So how you balance it across? So you kind of build a culture in the organization. You have to reward people for reporting incidents, for reporting anomaly behaviors. You should not really track the user per se, considering they are probably distrusted. Rather, you track the anomaly. So in cybersecurity, we call it user entity behavior analysis. There are quite a number of platforms we use to do that. So we track end-to-end life cycle of the user. What is their normal behavior? Understanding normal behavior is very crucial because that's how you kind of build a normal footprint of or base standard of a user's normal behavior. For example, hey, Suresh is a user. This is the normal time he logs in. This is the normal time he logs out. This is a normal pattern. These are the users he used to send the email in and out. And this is the number of websites or the data he's been uploading, sharing with somebody, and also these are the computers or the IP addresses or devices he's been using throughout and all. That's actually baseline and quite a digital footprint, which my normal behavior. As soon as somebody sees, not really somebody, the system sees an anomaly, for example, impossible travel. You call it a genuine use case. What is impossible travel? So one user is logged in a particular demography in a particular given point of time, then suddenly, within 5 minutes of time, or maybe even less, you find the same user being logged in another part of the world. That's what we call the impossible travel. Can a user really do that? Unless you are Superman or something, you can't really do that, right? So those are the kind of behavior we need to inculcate. So the user-wise, they should be kind of felt, they are kind of empowered to report incidents, and they should be part of the solution for cybersecurity. And from the back end, we need to have adequate checks and balances to make sure, identify, do the risk profile, and then take adequate action, specifically when it comes to cybersecurity.
Great, thanks Suresh for the comprehensive answer. Professor Sanat, from a legal and rights perspective, it's an important line of inquiry, I guess. In your view, where should responsibility lie between individuals, digital platforms, and state when people are harmed in digital spaces? What's your take on this?
Okay, first of all, I would also like to thank for inviting me to this very important and high-level panel. So yes, you have very correctly mentioned that 3 parties or stakeholders: the wrongdoer, the platform, and the state. Okay, so according to my opinion, no one should be exclusively liable, but there should be a kind of a shared liability or shared responsibility among the wrongdoer, the platform, and the state. Because these type of criminal actions or crimes happen in a kind of an ecosystem. So whatever participation or the involvement should be identified first, and then according to the identified intervention, whatever the stakeholder should be responsible for, should hold responsible. For an example, wrongdoer is the first person who is involved in, like, the violating these digital rights in digital spaces. So there should be a kind of a comprehensive and very detailed law outlining what are the prohibited actions when it comes to this digital space. Okay, so we have, as Dr. Tusit very correctly mentioned, so in Sri Lanka we have a very comprehensive ICT legal regime, even though there are some weaknesses and lapses which need to be addressed sooner rather later. But different legislations provide definitions to these different types of action should not be conducted by individuals using these computers and digital equipment and so on and so forth. When it comes to the platforms, so they use these algorithms and sophisticated technologies to, like, facilitate the content and to make sure that what content should be, like, highlighted, how the content is, like, shared with different individuals, so on and so forth. In that event, actually, the responsibilities of the platforms also needs to be understood by looking at their platform governance policies. For example, assume that person A is going to create a Facebook account, and Facebook account with the name of person B, okay, and put a photograph of person B as the cover, the profile image, and then using this particular Facebook account is trying to, like, trying to circulate or post sexually intimidating posts. And also, person A puts person B's mobile number even on that particular fake Facebook account. So when it comes to platform governance, actually, so we need to look at whether these platforms have specific policies just to respond to the claims or requests made by individuals who were victims of this type of fake use of social media and other platforms. For an example, if the policy response is coming within 10 seconds or 10 minutes, so maybe we may be able to prevent much harm. If it takes 10 days or several months, the harm will be irreplaceable. So that the platform liability is directly relevant to this platform governance. Then the other stakeholder in this scenario is the state responsibility. So as I see, this state responsibility is or can be considered as a part of the social contract itself. Okay, so like 10 decades ago or 10 years ago, the social contract may not be directly relevant to the protection of right to life, liberty and property. But now we are living in a digital era. Fourth industrial revolution refers to the artificial intelligence. So in that event, we can directly connect this state responsibility with the social contract. So state is also having a fundamental responsibility towards taking the necessary steps to make sure that the wrongdoers are like, to outline the limits and like, to provide what action should not be conducted, so on and so forth, and at the same time to provide policies to govern the platforms. When it comes to the state, there should be a kind of a proportionate interference of the state also. For an example, Article 14, subsection A, Article 14, subsection 1A of the Constitution says that we have a fundamental right to freedom of speech. Okay. So, whatever the stringent and strict regulation imposed by the state may be contrary to this fundamental right also. So, the proper balance needs to be achieved. So, in that event actually, when it comes to digital rights, especially regarding protection of digital rights of individuals, wrongdoers should be liable. Platforms governance should also be taken into account, and state also should be intervened with the kind of the proper and proportionate regulations relating to platform governance.
No, thank you for that, Professor Sanak. Very interesting, because I think we all have shared, and this is why it's important that we engage in discussion when some of these laws are being passed and public policies are being formulated. Right? So, next question for Sanduni then. Sanduni, we often see, very interesting, I'm sure it will resonate with a lot of the young audience here, I agree buttons and let the privacy policies presented as user consent rather. From a privacy and law perspective, what does meaningful and informed consent actually look like in practice? And is that standard realistic for how people in Sri Lanka will use digital services today?
So thank you, Ravi, for the question, and I'm grateful to be here, and thank you for extending the invitation to me to be part of this conference. So just to head on, jump into your question in terms of how does the interchange between transparency and consent look like. So I'd like to separate that question into two sections, because we shouldn't confuse the requirements of consent under the PDPA with our requirement to be transparent about our privacy or data protection practices. This is where the requirement for transparency actually translates into having a statement, or what we colloquially known as privacy policy, which we would read whenever we are adopting digital services. Now, consent is a little different. So it is actually provides you with a lawful basis for an organization to protect an individual, to process an individual's personal data. So PDPA, the Sri Lankan law, is not consent-centric, so to speak. It doesn't revolve entirely on consent, but consent serves as one of the lawful bases to process personal data. So the requirements under the PDPA essentially says that when you want to get or rely on consent or lawful basis, it has to be freely given, specific, informed, unambiguous, and it also has to satisfy certain other conditions as well. So this is why you can't really put terms concerning or requesting consent in your general terms and conditions. So if you're asking for consent, it has to be on a separate request for consent. And in doing so, So when we talk about whether consent is free, there cannot be any compulsion. There has to be other options for the user to explore instead of being compelled to disclose the information. And it cannot be ambiguous either. So you can't really ask consent using very generic forms saying that we want your consent to process personal data for improvement of products and services. So the moment it becomes too broad, the risk of that being exploited, call it the potential for function creep or to happen is high. Then, so when you're asking for consent, so you have to be specific. We are asking consent so that we can send you marketing promotional messages to your mobile number. So that is an example of consent. Whereas privacy policy serves a completely different purpose. So a privacy policy says, we at the organization, these are the data we collect, these are the purposes they serve, these are the security measures we adopt, these are the rights you have, and if something goes wrong, this is how you can seek redress. So this should not be confused with seeking consent. So whenever, sometimes organizations think that when users say yes to a privacy policy, that gives them a total agreement or okay to process information for anything or everything that organization plans to do with that data, which is not the case. So because, so how consent should look in practice is that it has to be specific and people need to be informed, okay, this is how their data, this is how the organization will use my data, but these are the purposes that they are asking this specific information from me. Now, one of the drawbacks in consent, and I've seen in my experience, is that sometimes organizations think that consent is the easiest way to go about. Okay, let's put them, prompt them a consent form or prompt something on the app, and then we are good to go. But what organizations are forgetting is that you have all these components to be satisfied before you can legitimately rely on consent as a lawful basis. And one thing you're also forgetting is that the moment you ask for consent, you're also creating the opportunity for the data subjects, the individuals, the right to withdraw their consent as well. So if your systems and processes are not geared to give effect to this withdrawal of consent, then you're in a bit of a trouble. I wouldn't say big, but quite enough trouble. So and also from the individual's perspective, why organizations shouldn't put consent as the foremost lawful basis is that this can be exploited. You create certain things like consent fatigues amongst the individuals, so you get so many consent requests from organizations, you're just blindly saying yes to everything without having that conscious assessment as to why exactly you're giving consent for. And this is, you see it in practice. So whenever something pops up asking, you want to give this data for this, and without thinking twice in practice, we would give our information. Right? And so even though the real dilemma here is that sometimes individuals think that they have control over their data, thinking that, okay, consent is paramount. It doesn't really work that way in practice because organizations are waiting to exploit that fragility or the vulnerability on the part of individuals, whereas individuals themselves aren't aware enough that when they voluntarily give their data, that can be treated as consent on their part.
Thank you, Sandra, for that. I guess moving on then, next question, I guess for Suresh, following up from that. From the perspective of an organization responsible for protecting large volumes of sensitive customer information, I guess this ties in with what somebody was talking about, how do you balance strong security measures such as monitoring and threat detection with customers' expectation of privacy? I guess this is what somebody was talking about as well, right?
Yeah, so I think I can resonate some of the content which actually said by the summary. So, we think that security and the privacy are actually kind of competing objectives. Actually, if in reality, they are complementing each other. So something we need to understand, specifically, although data is considered the new fuel, where the organizations actually trying to get a lot of data to use their business analytics and thrive their business and all. Same time, the data is also becoming a liability for an organization. So something you need to understand, specifically, the more data you collect, more there will be the responsibility for you to protect them. So when it comes to the previous requirement, when you, like the Sandhya explained, when you collect data, you need to specifically say, you need to be transparent about how you collect data, how you process them, with whom are you going to share this data, what is your retention, all of that should generally cover through your privacy policies and obviously through the procedures. So I would say, before we go deep into security, you need to first understand the life cycle of the data within your organizations. As a data processing environment, first you need to identify what are your data processing or the data flow diagrams. Which point you collect data, which point then this data get transferred into your systems, then subsequently which point this data get archived, which point data get shared, who takes the ownership of the data. Everything as far as you can find it or you can document them, then that's the point you can easily implement security controls, because it is also a requirement to protect your data when you collect and have them with you until you securely destroy them, right? So identifying the data privacy data requirements, specifically documenting them, understanding your data flow diagrams, where the data is collected and what are the steps you have in the organization. Then out of each point, you can easily implement the security controls, such as the access controls for data access, role-based access, then subsequently the technical requirements such as data encryptions, then there are principles called data anonymization and data pseudonymization, which data to be anonymized and which data to be pseudonymized. The primary difference is going to be the anonymized data, you can't reverse it back. Whereas you probably use it for your test databases kind of scenarios in the organization. But whereas pseudonymized data, you can again reverse it back to the original form whenever you require, such as you want to retain data in the organization for a longer period of time, right? So then you kind of pseudonymize them, then probably you retain it for a longer period of time, obviously with a legal purpose and the consent, based on the statutory framework you define. Then subsequently that will complement over a process. So something as I explained, I need to understand is, so the privacy related requirements can be complemented by the security to make sure the privacy is properly implemented.
Thank you, Suresh. Just building on that, thank you for that answer, Suresh. Building on that, privacy is often presented as an individual right. Just building on that. In some cases, we know governments and organizations may, and I say may, have legitimate reasons to collect and monitor information. In the Sri Lankan context, how should we determine where legitimate monitoring ends and unjustified intrusion into privacy begins?
Yes, so it is also an interesting question. Legitimate monitoring of individual data and how to secure privacy and respect and fulfill privacy related obligations of the government. So as well expressed, so yes, data is a liability, and at the same time, according to the PDPA, Personal Data Protection Act, enacted in 2022, so data is a responsibility also. So in managing this particular responsibility, so first we need to identify the meaning of right to privacy, or the privacy rights. So there is one particular definition, I would like to refer to that definition. So Samuel Warren's article published in 1890, they have provided a kind of very interesting definition to right to privacy as right to be let alone. Right to be let alone is one of there is no such universal definition, universal accepted definition to the term privacy. So right to be let alone encapsulates or captures all the necessary the elements related to which can be used to define the term privacy. So, if we are to secure this right to be let alone of individuals in the country, so that the monitoring or that the legitimate monitoring of individual personal information and data should also be in line with some kind of parameters. So otherwise, if there is no such parameters, what will happen is that, so there's a concept in administrative law called who guard the guardians. The same principle we can borrow from this public law context and apply it into this monitoring of personal data, private data, and apply it here. Who monitor the monitors? Okay, so in that event actually, so when I went through some of the the comparative examples to see how this legitimate monitoring should be outlined following these proportionate and ethical principles. So I found 5 criteria, so 5 principles may be relevant to Sri Lankan context when they are that they're preparing rules and regulations in this regard. First principle is legality. Okay. So the question would be, is there a clear legal basis for collecting or monitoring information or data? And the second principle is legitimate purpose. Why is the information being collected? If the purpose is legitimate, the collection can be considered as a kind of a collection based on legitimate purpose. And the third principle is necessity. Is collecting this particular information genuinely necessary to achieve the legitimate objective? If there is a kind of a proportionate requirement between the legitimate objective and the necessity, the privacy relation, so there can be a kind of an issue of using this monitoring of private information. There's another, once again I refer to a particular concept which is very popular in administrative law. So the concept says that don't use a sledgehammer to crack a nut. So the principle of proportionality should play kind of a very vital and important role in this regard also, just to make sure that the harm and the intrusion should be balanced. And the 5th principle is accountability, which refers to who monitors the monitors, as I mentioned earlier. Are there safeguards, retention related limitations, and access controls, and independent oversights and remedies for misuse. So these principles need to be taken into account, especially when the government intervenes to the privacy related matters and aspects of private individuals, even organizations also.
Thank you. Very interesting. Don't use a sledgehammer to crack a nut, basically. Yeah. But a lot of the times we try and collect as much information as possible because there's a lot of value in this. Yeah? Moving on to Dr. Tusita. Tusita, as digital platforms and online behavior evolve faster than legislation can keep up, in your view, how should Sri Lankan lawmakers approach regulating online harms without creating laws that are either too broad or restrictive of legitimate freedom of expression? Very interesting.
Yes. Actually, when we come into the law enforcement mechanism and what they have to do in here, basically when we talk about the responsibility, especially first of all we have to consider the responsibility. Who should take the responsibility here? In this way, we can find 3 parties in the responsibility order: the perpetrator, platform, and finally state. My simple answer for this one is all are responsible, right? It is well obvious that perpetrator is responsible because he is the person who conducts the crime. He is responsible. When we move to the platform, platform is also responsible. Platform is the place where they give a kind of facility to do their crime or do their part, right? When we come into the Online Safety Act, this part is well recognized because that act clearly identified online location and online accounts, two part of them. By using online location, by using online platform, we can commit a crime, right? So the second part, that of course the platform is also responsible because they are the people who give the chance and provide the facility to do the crime. And when they are not compliant with the legal mechanism, of course they are responsible. They are responsible for the act. When we move to the third part, state. Of course, the state is the big player in here, who should take necessary action to take laws, initiate laws, and implement laws, and create the institutionalization. Without having institutionalization, we cannot go further because it is something that thoroughly depends on the institutionalization. As I told you in the previous part, the implementation plays a very big role in this technology. It's a highly sophisticated technology. Without having that part in much, without having technical people, the human resources, we cannot implement this law. So institutionalization is also a very important part. In this sense, we can say state is responsible for everything end of the day. So that is my short answer for your question.
Thank you. This is I appreciate it. Question, I guess, in wrapping up this session to Sandhani. As Sri Lanka continues to develop and implement its data protection and privacy framework, what changes should organizations and individuals expect? And what areas of the framework may still require further development? I know you engaged at your exec summary in a lot of this discussion, so very interested to take your views on this.
So thank you, Abhi, for the question. So in terms of what organizations should expect in the coming, because now the dates for most of the provisions of the PDP has been announced as 1st of January, albeit the provisions concerning rights of individuals and penalties. But this creates a deadline for most public sector and private sector organizations who process individual data on an ongoing and continuous basis to make sure all their activities are compliant with the co-processing obligations, which is ensuring there's a lawful basis to do it, purpose limitation as President just mentioned, making sure you only have the absolute minimum required data to achieve your objectives, accuracy, transparency, confidentiality, integrity, and accountability is complied with, in addition to some of the ancillary obligations stipulated in the PDP, which includes having a governance framework in place with the data protection officer in center for some organizations, provisions relating to cross-border transfer of personal data, data breach notification requirements, so on and so forth. So a lot of organizations need to expect that this constitute a complete overhaul of their current practices. So how they collect data, how, for all this time they would have been rather callous about how they collect, how the security of the data, but now it's time to take things seriously and re-look at the internal policies, procedures, the technology, the people, and processes that are involved in processing personal data. So there's a huge amount of change that organizations should expect in order to be at least 75% compliant by 1st of January. And I'm not just talking about the private sector, there's a whole lot of work to be done in the public sector as well. So these conversations have to take up in the top management, because nothing will move unless you have top management buy-in, so not just the CEO, chairman levels, but the secretaries, in a sense, ministerial secretaries downwards have to have these conversations to make sure that they are not the ones who are found liable first when the DPA starts triggering or issuing directives and eventually triggering penalties once those provisions come effective. So in terms of individuals, so their rights the rights to access, right to withdraw consent, rectification, erasure, and so on, which are guaranteed under the PDPA, will not immediately get effected by 1st of January. But having said that, the provisions, the right to complain to the authority will be operational from 1st of January. So if an individual has a complaint about how an organization is processing the personal data in violation of the PDPA, they can lodge a complaint because the authority already has the power to inquire into a complaint and issue course correction directive. So that's the first line of enforcement action which the authority can take. So they are not going to first be imposing penalties, but they will give an opportunity for any organization to rectify a situation, to refrain from doing certain things, or in some cases even pay compensation to the aggrieved parties. So those provisions will be operational from 1st of January. And in terms of, so these are the things that, so individuals should expect that by 1st of January, the custodians of their data will be compliant with the PDPA. And in terms of where development can happen in terms of the PDPA, because PDPA itself is, I mean, with the technological advancement, it will not, I mean, there's no perfect law in the world. So PDPA itself will need to undergo certain changes in order to keep abreast with these technological developments. And I would say personally what I would feel things that we can expect further, I would say more clarity on the PDPA concerning things like the establishment of the data protection management program, which is the core component to demonstrate accountability under the PDPA. Then in terms of breach notifications, which is still a little hazy area, because those rules and regulations needs to come in. And personally, I feel that more focus needs to be paid in terms of child privacy, which is currently lacking in terms of the PDPA framework. I mean, we do characterize child data as special categories, warranting certain additional safeguards. But I think that EPA needs to go a step further in line with other supervisory authorities around the world about focusing on the importance of safeguarding children's privacy in this digital age as well, because we're talking about a vulnerable sector in the population. And secondly, in terms of the impact new technologies like artificial intelligence would have in personal data. So an AI Act, I'm not, because maybe something in the offing, I'm not sure. But before we get to that point, trying to regulate AI in total, it will be important to look at the threats that technologies like artificial intelligence poses to elements of personal data, because AI should not be just handled from a privacy angle. There should be other administrative law aspects that come into when it comes to regulating AI. But certain discussions and guidance towards using personal data in development and training of AI models and the output that comes through it would need certain guidance and development in the legal framework, so to speak.
Thank you, Sandri. Just stay on that. So just to wrap up, a quick rapid fire round. I know we are out of time really. For all the panelists, and if we can start with you, Sandri. So looking ahead, if you can think of one legal, technical or cultural challenge you believe Sri Lanka needs to make to better protect privacy, digital rights and individuals from online harm.
Yeah.
Quick response from you.
I think just to resound everything that was said in the panel right now, is that one of the things is lack of education and awareness amongst users. So we talk about responsibility, and I quite agree with what Ms. Vijay Singh and Dr. ISACA said about collective responsibility. And users also play a small part in bringing down or curtailing the spread of online harms. And I think it needs to start at a very young level. It starts from schools to from universities, where we are empowering our children to understand the risks that they're going to face in the future when they interact with the social media. I think that is significantly lacking in our education system right now, and which is something we need to address so that when they embrace the future, they are better prepared. Because I think one of the things we need to inculcate in ourselves is the zero trust principles. I mean, at a personal level, we need to embrace those principles as well. So whenever we see something too good to be true, never trust it to be true. So that kind of awareness will only come if there is a systematic approach to raising awareness amongst the general population starting at a pretty young age.
Thank you, sir. Susita, your take on this?
Yes, actually, in every time when we introduce a law or mechanism, we have to think on the right-based approach rather offense-based approach. What we make the mistake, most of the time we make it as an offense rather consider it as a right. Because end of the day, all of them are rights of the people. For example, when we come to the Data Protection Act, data protection, by implementing the Data Protection Acts, in Sri Lanka, we create a new right in here. That is data right. Data right come up with 4 different type of right: view, review, not use, not using direct marketing. So now all of these are rights of the people. So in every case, it would be better we take a decision, whatever the law, we take a implementation mechanism and law with the right-based approach in mind rather offensing it. That is my answer.
Thank you, Suresh. You're leading the charge with lots of good data with your institute. What do you see as a challenge moving forward?
Yeah, so the most challenging part is the building the right culture in the organization. So specifically, you have with a large number of users, as well as where you are given the responsibility to take care of the data of probably what number of millions of customer data. So where the power to access the data also should be kind of defined in the what are the ethical and transparent and responsible access. So the building the right culture, how across the network where everybody speaks the same language, because otherwise obviously it's been quite challenging to maintain the literacy within the organization.
Thank you, Suresh. And finally, to you, Sanat, to bring it home, one legal, technical, or cultural challenge you will Sri Lanka.
Yes, so as the other panel members very correctly pointed out, yes, we need to increase the awareness, and we need to consider right-based approach in regulation, and we need to see the cultural aspects also. And at the same time, I think it is the right time for Sri Lanka as a developing country, as a country in which we are going towards digitizing the entire economy. We should pay attention to the concept of digital constitutionalism, which is an evolving concept. Digital constitutionalism, so good governance, rule of law, rights and individual right-based approach should also be considered in regulating the digital space. In this event, actually, we should not see this regulation and innovation as two opposite extremes of a kind of a spectrum. So, in contrast, actually, what the country and the law and policy makers and also the general public should see this regulation as a kind of an enabling mechanism of trustworthy innovation. So, digital trust and digital constitutionalism. So, we need to be familiar with these terms and their scope and their application. That's my view.
Digital trust and digital constitution. I learned something new. I'm not sure if we have time for one last question for the audience. Organizers, do we have time or we're out of time? Or maybe we can make an executive decision. Maybe we'll open up for one question from the audience. If anyone wants to pose a question to the panel, we've had a very insightful and thought-provoking discussion. I'm sure there'll be at least one question. Anyone? Yes? Get a mic number.
Right, thank you. Actually, it is not exactly related to this topic, but probably the previous one. But since it's very much related to legal aspects, so I would like to raise that question now. Recently, of course, we found Sri Lanka is a very attractive location for those scammers, especially the foreign ones, the cyber criminals. Of course, we have seen that many have been arrested as well. Is there any particular, because in the past, of course, we have seen places like China, North Korea, probably Myanmar, Laos. So those are the countries, probably Thailand, those are the countries that have attracted them for those kind of criminal practices. But do you think any leniencies in our legal system that have attracted those cyber criminals from different countries here? Any particular things to be patched up in that case?
Especially you mentioned the legal mechanism. I can say that our legal system is okay, right? It is very comprehensive. When we consider the Computer Crime Act, it is a carbon copy of the English version, Computer Misuse Act 1990. In this way, we can say it is a very comprehensive, very good law. But still, the problem with the implementation and awareness. There are a number of issues, but people, they don't want to take a legal action. And the implementation mechanism is not that much of well aware, or they don't have sufficient level of mechanism resources. For example, if you want to take a legal action for a person, when they happen a criminal crime. So initially you can go to the nearest police station to lodge your application. Definitely what they say, you have to go to the CID in Colombo. Wherever you are there, you have to come all the way down from there to here, lodge your application. So it shows that we don't have proper mechanism. That's the issue. The legal bedrock is okay. It's follow the well-conversed law in the world. For example, as I said earlier, the Computer Crime Act is a carbon copy of the English version. So law is very comprehensive, but still the problem is the implementation mechanism as well as the awareness of the people.
Yeah, and to that, how it's going to affect us in a bad way in terms of digital trust, because those attacks are coming from Sri Lanka. Obviously, we are not responsible, but as a country, the digital trust, global, how it affects on us, I think it will be very badly affected, isn't it?
I mean, just add to what you said, I think it's not a question or a problem with the laws related to digital economy or digital transactions or computer crimes that is the problem here. It relates to things that are completely outside this domain, things like immigration laws, enforcement of those laws, because sometimes our visa requirements are so lax that it makes it easier for these perpetrators to flood the country. And in lack of proper enforcement of these laws is actually what has led to some of these scam centers being set up, where it gets dismantled in Southeast Asia. So all these becoming, Sri Lanka is becoming multi centers for crimes like pig butchering to all sorts of other criminal activities. And secondly, it's about, we are not holding these landlords accountable as well. So there are certain needs to be enforcement relating to rent and other related laws, where the landlords should have certain level of due diligence when they rent out these large premises in exchange for large sums of money, how they are being responsible under our legal system, which is these obligations don't stem from the Computer Crimes Act or the PDPA, for example, but comes from a host of other laws which are kind of unfortunately facilitating the brewing of these kind of illegal activity in the country.
So, one thing I would also like to say, the maturity of the control environment in the country, that also really matters. I'm heading a country in Central Bank of Sri Lanka, where we kind of drive mitigating the frauds in the country, specifically the scammers and fraudulent transactions. So one thing we really try to bring in is to bring in more technology to mature the controls. For example, the identity control. When somebody takes over somebody else's device, when somebody compromises somebody else's accounts, when somebody, a fraudster actually do a fraudulent transaction, then how do we kind of baseline the normal transaction and detect this fraudulent transaction, the mule accounts. So that technical control maturity is what we are lacking when compared to certain other jurisdictions or demographics, such as you take one of the mature one, probably Singapore is one of the mature one, where you can see quite a number of controls have been implemented. But the scammers also knows that and so that they also use the general public, you know, the weaknesses and then lack of awareness to kind of do these scams, then subsequently do this fraudulent transaction. Often, some of the legal frameworks, I would say, the way they were kindly at the moment implemented has some rigid kind of restrictions when it comes to facilitate the investigation. For example, usually these scammers, when they kind of scam someone and just imagine they take 1 million LKR from my account, then they do a chain transfer. You know what is a chain transfer, right? So, for example, within a couple of minutes, they transfer this money to probably about 16 to 17 accounts, right? So, when even somebody goes and complain it, when, you know, through the back itself, we kind of identify all these 17 accounts, you know, the CID or the legal law enforcement authorities to investigate all these 16 to 17 accounts requires 17 court orders. Just imagine every time they case file, they go to court, by the time they do that part, money is already gone out of the country. So how they always land up in the point they take out the money is they usually, you know, they know who are the crypto traders in the country. They contact them and then they subsequently say, I give you this amount of LKR, this is my digital wallet, or my crypto wallet. Basically, can you transfer this money to the gun? So that's the point that money leaves the country. You know, cryptocurrency is not regulated here. After that, it is most likely to be a kind of without help of the Interpol and other international agencies, we can't really trace that money back. So that's the current situation at the moment we have. If the law enforcement can have access to this data very fast, and also the current financial system can detect and block this transaction really fast, then this will be not a bias, kind of a playful environment for scammers to come and play around here. So that it will be a so restricted and controlled environment, they will automatically move into a less mature market.
Thank you, Suresh. I think with that we are out of time. Thank you to my panel, Sanduni, Dr. Tusita, Mr. Suresh, and Professor Sanath. You can have a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you to our distinguished panelists and Mr. Abhi Pilpitia for sharing their valuable insights and perspectives. We will now proceed with the presentation of tokens of appreciation. May we invite Professor Haringa Fernando, Department of Computer Systems Engineering, and Dr. Maritha Vijay Sundara, Pro Vice Chancellor, Faculty of Humanities and Sciences, to present the tokens of appreciation.
First and foremost, I would like to invite Professor Sanath Samir Vijay, Professor in Department of Legal Studies, Open University of Sri Lanka. Next, Mr. Suresh Emmanuel, Chief Information Secretary. Legal Studies Unit, University of Sri Javardhan, Sri Lanka. Simon Consumer, Independent Consultant, Information Privacy and Technology. And last but not least, our moderator is Abhi Pilpitia, Director, CEO, Aeon Technology. Next up, we have prepared 3 certificates for 3 winners of the quiz we gave earlier. So to deliver the certificates, I would now like to invite Guni Mancha and Sakita Newman. So from the quiz, we have selected 3 winners, and the 3rd place goes to Janitu Hesankar. Please give a round of applause.
The 2nd place goes to Sayuri Pulakama.
And the 1st place goes to Dimitra Viswajaya. Please give a round of applause to our winner of this competition. Thank you. As we come towards the conclusion of this insightful conference, we now take a moment to express our gratitude to everyone who contributed to making this Cybersecurity and Law Conference 2026 a meaningful and a successful event.
To deliver the word of thanks, we respectfully invite Ms. Gweni Asia, President of the Security Community of SLIIT.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we come to the end of the Cybersecurity and Law Conference 2026, it is my privilege as the President of the Cybersecurity Committee of SLIIT to deliver the word of thanks. First, our sincere gratitude goes to all our distinguished speakers and moderators for sharing your valuable knowledge, insights and experiences, and for making today's discussion truly meaningful. I would also like to thank our distinguished guests in Maltese, State Management, Student Services, the CSC Department, the Cybersecurity Program staff, and the SLIIT School of Law staff for your continuous support and contribution towards this event. A special thank you goes to our staff advisor, Mr. Kavingayaba Bevardhana, and Ms. Kushanti Haraskama, Head of School of Law, for your guidance, encouragement, and support throughout the planning and execution for this conference. Our sincerest appreciation also goes for our sponsors, donors, and well wishers and partners for believing in and supporting this initiative. I would also like to acknowledge the security and the cleaning staff, technical and event teams, volunteers, and everyone who worked behind the scenes to ensure that today's event ran smoothly. A special appreciation goes to CS2, ISACA student group, MMNDS committee, whose dedication, teamwork, and countless hours of preparation made today a success.
Thank you, Goni, for those words of appreciation. On behalf of the organizers, we extend our sincere gratitude to our distinguished chief guest, keynote speaker, moderators, esteemed panelists, guests, partners, organizers, and every participant who joined us today.
Your presence and contribution have made today's conversation richer and more meaningful. The intersection of cybersecurity and law will continue to evolve, and conversations such as these are essential in building a safer, more responsible and resilient digital future. And before we wind up, you are able to download your e-certificate by following this QR code on screen.
With that, we officially conclude the Cybersecurity and Law Conference 2026. And before you leave, we would like to inform that food stalls are available at the Court Triangle premises for you as well. Thank you for being with us, and we wish you a safe and a successful day ahead. Signing off for now, I'm Mr. Tejan.
I'm Chirati Kavinya, and have a wonderful day ahead.